Good evening, and welcome to Lord Gugu's stream. Consider becoming a subscriber today to access the exclusive Stephen Sondheim Twitch emote. Tonight's performance of Musical Theater is Good Actually will run approximately 90 minutes with one intermission, and tonight the role of guest will be played by Jack Keough. Please take this time to silence your cell phones and note all emergency exits. And if you are holding a chicken box, please make sure you've brought enough for everybody. I think musical theater is good actually. I like it when the actors dance and sing, and that's why I don't think that it is cringe. Hey! How good actually is. It's so good. It's actually good. Okay, now we're here. How's everybody? How are we all doing? Can we hear?
So good.
We're coming in good here. Alex.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Bobby.
Hello. Alex is up. But I'll just not waste any time, and I will bring in our guest as well. But Alex is here, and he's I call him he's on the Ed McMahon, Andy Richter. See.
What a dream come true.
Alex has always dreamed of being Andy Richter.
I've always dreamed to be the second chair for an online TV show.
Yes. So
that I do from my house.
Same. Well, I'm first chair, like in the violin.
Yeah, exactly.
First chair. Okay, well let's bring him in here. Our guest tonight is one of my oldest and best friends, with whom Alex and I have both performed alongside at both Towson University and in Baltimore and in Chicago, including in the show we're going to discuss tonight. And you might remember him from being a champ and joining for 2 musicals on our New Year's Day musical marathon. And we're excited to have him on now as an official guest. So please welcome Jack Keough. Hey! We're all here. We're met. Jack.
I like it.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I mean, well, you've already been once before. It was a very special day, and you were a very special part of it.
Yes, it was a special day. It wasn't the usual format. It was
Yes.
A little loosey goosey.
It was an insane thing I did. Could have done one less musical, probably. I in retrospect, would have done at least one less than what I did.
Some people climb mountains and don't survive. You stream for 14 hours.
14 hours of back-to-back musicals.
I mean,
14 hours of sitting down and watching musicals. How did you ever do it?
I'm an athlete.
Did you do it?
You're an athlete.
You did say multiple times during the cast that you didn't think that athletes could do what you did. I think that's correct.
I agree. I do. Like, sure, I can't do what they can do, but they also could not do that. I'd like to see Bradley Beal watch 6 musicals in a row. All right.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Charles Barkley do a little night music. You know? Is that an athlete?
Sure. I had to move you around on the screen here, Alex, because I remember that the whole deal, now we have Jack, is so the reason that you get full guest status and Alex is off in the corner right now.
Yes, FGS.
Alex is just an old friend of the cast. He's
he's
got the open door policy, I say, anytime he wants to appear on, and that basically goes for all guests. Let me see. I don't know.
This is recruitment, everyone.
This is recruitment.
More or less. Always hit me up if you've been on and you want to... hey, I'm Leb Snow! Hey! We love Emmy. Emmy was also involved in our infamous production. I put Alex in the corner. I just did. So, there he is. But I did that because we have to do with Jack. Our musical quiz! Uh-oh, now you can see that my filter's bad. All right. Because, I mean, I already know a lot of these answers for you, kind of. But also, it has been a minute since we last did theater. I mean,
It had.
2012. That is... That's almost 10 years ago. I
I don't
mean,
want to think about it.
it's almost a full decade. That would be the Moose Humps box set, I think, would be the last theater we all did together, I want to say.
Yeah, that's the last thing the three of us did together for sure.
Yeah. That was a set of funny half-hour shows we did in Chicago that were parodies of Goosebumps called Moose Humps. And
Choose Your Own Adventure Halloween play.
right. And it was Choose Your Own Adventure, right? But we would always only rehearse one option and then just really try to get the audience to pick that.
I mean, the trick. Well, I don't know. Should I tell them what the trick is? I mean,
Absolutely. I think it's fair. That's fine now.
You write the same outcome for either. Is really what the trick is, and so it's really just
right. I mean, I think for the
yeah, I'm playing a lot of RPGs
one
now,
we did-
and it's the same thing where they'll give you like 3 dialogue options, but they're all the same.
Sure.
They're all like, sure, or like, I could do that, or like, I guess, but it's all this. Like, it's like 3 degrees of yes. Like, what were you gonna say, Alex?
No, I mean, I think the first Moose Humps 1.0, I think we did make an effort to rehearse each one.
Yes.
But then after,
But there was the
realizing
main
that,
option. Like even then we knew this is the course we want it to take.
It would be like, hey, do you want our main character to fight the bad guy or run away from the bad guy?
Right.
And spoiler alert, even if you chose run away, which you wouldn't because you want action, they would end up fighting the bad guy.
Right.
fighting. Exactly.
So it really was just like kind of.
It was just an
coaxing it.
excuse to have points in the show at which the drunk people in the bar where we're performing it could yell back at the audience. It was children's theater for adults, was what we called
Yes.
it, and it was.
And it was
Totally.
fun. We had a good time.
I don't think we ever called it that, but I agree with that.
That's what I always called it. No, I don't know.
Okay,
But
well,
that was
that
kind
was not.
at least for the Moose Humps, that was always the vibe.
Yeah.
But Jack, we'll just start.
Yes.
But especially for the people at home, for the people that may not know you as well, we have to start, of course, as always, with getting the baseline of where you're at with musicals. So, which statement do you agree with more? Musical theater is the pinnacle of human. Take it one again. Take it one more time. Musical theater is the pinnacle of human achievement as the purest and most complete synthesis of all art and performance, or
Rolls off the tongue.
musical theater is an abomination before God and man and destroying us as a society and human race. Which of those two statements is more true in your opinion?
I mean, here's the thing, Bobby. I think that it's both, depending on the show. Because I know Alex thinks it's an abomination, I will go with the opposite for the sake of argument, because I think that we can all have a healthy dialogue, and I'd like to throw down.
But
So
even
I'm gonna go
Alex
with, the pinnacle.
has his shows that he would like, basically the same thing you're saying, that like that,
Yeah.
that you have shows
He
that you
does.
would think more support the first statement.
Peek
Yes.
behind the curtain here. I am here to be a heel to Bobby. So yes, obviously my baseline is going to be no, as a whole, musicals harm culture, and then I would simply just point to a photograph of Lin-Manuel Miranda. But in reality, I come on this show with great enthusiasm to discuss.
I've been talking about Moana lately. Great music. Great.
It's
You know, I like Moana. I like Moana.
It's really good.
I watched it with my nephew, way back before in the before times, and it's really good.
I think that it's like the most like those classic Disney musicals, even more so than definitely more so than like Frozen or Tangled, which only had like a few songs, and those songs were more like singles that were in the movie for the most part.
Yeah, I felt like Frozen was a little bit closer to the,
for sure.
And Moana. I
But
just mean
Moana
it-
was
it-
like
in the
really
recent-
satisfying, and all the like music numbers are great.
Well, and how far it goes, whatever the single is.
But even like the one that
unimpeachable.
It's a great song.
the one that they all sing on the boat, which is tragically sung by
the
man
away,
himself.
Away?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my nephew's favorite song.
I
He
love
loves
that song, but it is tragically sung by the man himself, of which we are talking. All right, Jack. Ooh, this is fun. because now we can get into a bit of your long history of doing musicals. Yes. What is your musical theater archetype? And actually, and I'll say, what is Jack now? Because you haven't done like theater in quite a while. So like,
it's been a minute.
Yeah. So Jack, right now in 2021, what is your musical theater archetype? Are you the ingenue, the villain, the sidekick / friend, the character actor / comic relief / old, or other specify? Which is you?
You know, I think that it remains true now as it did then, that I'm mostly like sidekick friend, maybe a little bit of like funny comic relief, somewhere in there. I've always fit somewhere in there. I've never been, and I never will be any kind of like lead,
right?
You know,
but
ingenue or hero.
Except in Moose Humps 1 through 3.
Except in Moose Hump, yeah. That's if I'm playing a child. Then
that's when he's the lead.
Out of playing a little boy.
Yeah. I did. I made quite a career playing a small boy, and a small girl in because
the
Susie,
one. Yeah, but I remember I was like, we should have. Like a girl. We should have one be a girl, I guess, because the goose.
We should have a female protagonist,
right? Well, yeah, and it was like Goosebumps. Sometimes there's a girl. It's a girl in there, so I was like,
sometimes there's a girl.
Sometimes it's a girl.
Yeah. So I'm only ever a lead if I'm playing a child, I guess is the answer to that.
Well, that's fair, and
mostly friend, sidekick, little comic relief.
But the comic relief and those types of parts are always the most fun anyway. Like I'm thinking of like some of the like even the what was your part called in Song for a Future Generation? Was it the other dude? Is that it?
The kid.
The kid. And like even like
that.
Yeah, like a part like that where you just come in like late in the show, get to like do like a featured bit and kind of steal it and stuff. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, you hang out. You know, I'll talk about it later. I think like a friend of mine fairly recently, within the last couple of years, played the Acid Queen, and she was like, "This is the best gig I've ever had because you come on for about 5 minutes, and that's it, and it's very easy." It's nice, yeah.
For sure.
You get some breaks throughout the show.
I love a show with breaks. One of my favorite tracks I ever did was The Secret Garden, where I played the shitty mean uncle character, who gets to like, he does something in the very, very beginning. He like has like 2 lines, and he walks off stage and doesn't do anything until Lily's Eyes, which is like the big male duet ballad, which is right before the end of the second act.
And that's a great song.
It is. It's beautiful.
It's a great song.
I love a great 2 men duet, because there aren't too many, and you sing that beautiful song, the audience cries and loves it, and then maybe you're involved in the like finale, however that happens, and then you have like a couple scenes at the beginning of Act 2, and Act 2 is kind of the same way. A couple scenes at the beginning of Act 2 come out for the very end, and I love any show where you get a good 30 minutes between each time you're on stage to just
it's nice. You can go to the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
You can like read a book. It's nice.
Yeah.
You can have several cigarettes. You can
many coffee from the sweat.
And when I'm the principal in a show, like when I was Stein in City of Angels, where I was like, in every other scene or whatever, and that's not a show where I'm on stage all the time, but even then I was like, okay, this scene I'm not on, this is a pee time, this is a time I can pee, and it's like that's when you mark, that's how like I mark where we are in the show. I'm like, oh no, if I'm gonna need to do it now because I'm not gonna have time.
It's time for my pee break.
So that's
I loved when we were in college and we all did Angels in America. I was in Millennium, you guys were in Perestroika, and I played Harper Pitt on the Millennium track, and I got to have basically the entire like third act where I didn't have anything to do, because Harper has that one scene in the third act, and after that I would just go and clean up the green room, because that took me out of it and would get me calm again, because that last scene is a lot. She's a lot. She's a lot. It's much.
Well, the whole thing is a lot.
The green room, and it was great, and I loved it.
The whole thing is a
lot. The thing about
lot.
Angels in America is all the characters are going through something.
They're all going through it. Nobody's having a good time.
It's like they're all in choir.
Yeah. they are what put us in the emotional state to be ready for this past year.
That's
was
right.
that we
It
all
was
played those
college
parts.
theater.
Yes.
That's,
Uh-oh. We lost. Alex, you paused for a second, but you're fine. You're back.
oh yeah, you're back.
Great. I'm back. I'm fine. I'm back. I'm fine.
He's back. He's fine. Yeah, that's one of our favorite, I think, roles for all of us was our shows that we did in college was Angels in America. I think I've talked about it on the show before, but the funniest part about it to me was always that, like, yeah, we were like working our asses off up there, emoting like crazy, like really like thinking, you know, like we were just doing it.
Important.
And then like the audiences would be like 7 people, like half of which are required to be there for Susie Rockovitz's class and like are miserable and leave after the like first or second act. They leave at either the first or second intermission. I think usually second intermission. They're like, this shit has one more act. No, I've seen enough. They're like, this is too long and depressing.
Well, it's like, it's kind of a tough pitch. It's like, hey, universe, on your nights, on your free time, would you like to come to a college and watch 8 20-year-olds try to wrestle with the gravity of the AIDS crisis for 3 hours?
In 2007, yeah. Right. It was, it was a great time. But actually, my track in Perestroika, I was Lewis, and Alex was Pryor. I will point, he was brilliant. He was brilliant. And Em Livin Snow says it was incredible, and she's right. But Lewis actually doesn't do anything until the end of the first act. And I just come out like on the bed with Joe,
got to sit around
and I'm like, oh, I just had a weird dream that you're a Mormon, and he's like, I am a Mormon, and that's it. That's like the whole. Like I can still remember exactly what happened.
Yeah, Haley had a lot to do because she have to kick
and
off
you. Like I'll remember like the first.
Well, you had a lot to do.
The first 6 hours of the first day of tech was like none of us did anything. Well, the first like 3 hours was just Haley going up and down. The trap because we had like a trap door. And
we had a trap door with a pneumatic lift and like a remote control wagon.
Yeah, Towson University has some pretty nice facilities that we got to enjoy.
Handheld control wagons.
Yeah.
Our whole day was Lexi coming in on that that rolling staircase where when the angel appears. That was the whole day. The whole day. I sat
to get that backlight because you got to backlight it real hard.
Yeah, Jason Crutchfield back there calling the whole thing, but it's like, and it was just like 30 some calls in just like the beginning like 5 minutes or something. It's like insane.
It was wild.
So but anyway, it's not a fucking musical. We're talked about it too long.
It's not a musical.
It can be though. Let's write a pop musical around
it. Can be, you know, it can end with a Madonna song. It'd be really nice. Anyway, so we can't go into it. Jack, okay, now this is the question I've been dying to ask you.
Sorry.
How do you musical theater? Because we used to do musical theater a lot, and now you've been out in Portland, right? Basically, area for how long now? While.
Almost 5 years now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So you've been out there for a minute, and you're not really in that world anymore. But how much are you wanting to listen to a cast recording or watch a movie musical or go see, when you could, go see a musical? How are you musical theatering these days?
It is mostly listening for me these days, even in the before times. But I will say that one of the last things that we did right before the pandemic was I went to see Hedwig at Portland Center Stage, and it was so fun. I went with 2 friends, one who was very familiar with it, and another who had never seen it before. And my only, I had a couple complaints about the show, but they had some staging issues, and then the only issue.
How do you have staging issues with Hedwig?
Yeah.
Because what they did was they put it. I know, right? It's like it's
a
you
concert,
feel like you can't make a mistake. But what they did was they made the set like a abandoned mall, like a shitty mall that had been never been shopped in or hadn't been shopped in for years. And so what they did was they put the band in a contained area that was off, if you're looking at the stage, off to the left. And so they had them kind of in a cage. And so they had them in this, like, I think it was like a Cinnabon or something. Like they put them behind a counter, behind a sort of makeshift
the wrench
wall.
maneuver.
Exactly.
Put him under the scaffolding off to the left.
Put him under the scaffolding, yeah. And so they had them separated, which is not what you want to do because that's all she's ever interacting with is the band.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work. And then the person who was playing Hedwig, he's great. He was fantastic vocally and was very funny. But I think, and also I went and saw it on like a Wednesday night. We all know how that kind of night goes.
They're just getting into it.
You're just trying to get through it.
Right.
And so he was really going really, really fast and like bulldozing through the jokes. Oh. And for me and the friend who were very familiar with the show, it was very funny because we could keep up. But my friend who hadn't seen it was like, I didn't get like half of that. And I was like, yeah, I know, because he was really just trying to get through it. So
yeah, timing is really important.
It's always a mistake to split up the band across a stage.
It is, yeah. You have to keep it. Yeah, it does.
I mean, either like put them in a totally different room, which I know is more and more as pits become more prime real estate for like
even
stage tricks.
Even
like
pits have always been small in and of themselves and under the stage, and then like the set design is always like bothered by there being people there.
Right, and as like the ability to run like longer cabling and amplification and all that works, more and more we see people putting the band in an auxiliary room.
Well, that was the case for Spider-Man, the last show you were on here to discuss, was they did have to put the band.
Oh yes, right. That band.
That's right. And Towson, our very alma mater, played with that too. Had to do that after I think we graduated. Our dear friend of the show, Nick Jewett, had played in some pits with them, and they started using the Ruth Martyr as a remote band area for main stage musical.
That's very interesting.
Well,
So yeah, mostly listening these days.
So that's that. I hope everyone enjoys this.
This is Towson University, everybody. This is really just an ad for it. Robin Quick is personally paying me.
Oh man, Robin.
Oh shit, where's my cut? No, my cut is sitting in the second chair on the corner of the.
Well, what do you put on to listen to? Is it Carolina Change and Passing Strange, or is it?
It is a lot of that. Those are constantly ones that I revisit. I will say that I listen to those a lot. I've always really loved Parade, which I know
it's a good listen.
Show,
it's not a great watch.
It's a good listen. No, it's not a great watch. Good listen.
Because you can also skip the crappier songs in it too. Is also why.
Exactly. Yeah. Over the pandemic, I actually listened to, for the first time, Waitress, because I don't really know a lot of the like newer stuff. I've kind of been.
I'm the same way, because I don't like to listen to a show before I see it.
Right. Same.
And so there's a lot of shows that I'm watching for the first time for this show because I've like avoided listening to them or checking them out, but now I find a slime tutorial, and so I watch like the first act of Beetlejuice. So I was like, oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so Waitress was one that I got into kind of late in the game, but I do like it. It's got some really good songs.
Yeah, I want to do that one. There's a guest I'm trying to get on here that's not returning my DMs. He's a big deal guest, but if you run into Mike Mitchell of the Doughboys, everybody, sorry, I don't mean to just like, this is just a public service announcement.
Yeah.
If you could just tell him to please respond to my DMs. It's not weird.
I'll let him know.
It's an exchange. It's not just me bugging him. Like, we were going back and forth, and now he's doing the classic Mitch thing of not responding.
Someone anyway, has to get to Wally and/or Irma.
I was thinking that Waitress would be a fun one to do, potentially for that episode if we get Mitch on here, because he does reviews fast food places, and so like a Waitress. But I don't really know a Waitress besides that one song, which is really good.
That classic fast food thing where a waitress brings you your food.
You know how there's waitresses in fast food. Shut the fuck up.
You know how the one thing about fast food.
You know that
part out, so it's perfect.
You could pitch it to Mitch. You could say like, hey, why don't you go to LA House of Pies and get some of your favorite slices, and you tell me about the pies, and then we'll talk about this musical.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what he can get in Quincy, and then if I ever can get Weiger, I'm gonna do Weiger to do the Music Man, because he's a big marching band boy. So the Music Man with Weiger. That's my That's on my dream journal though, so we'll see. Or my secret. I'm doing the secret for that. It's working.
I like it.
Laws of attraction.
All right, Jack, you're gonna have takes here, and I'm excited for them.
Okay.
What?
Oh yeah, I do. I know what's next,
Okay.
and I've got takes.
Awesome. Jack's seen the show. He knows. What musicals should be more popular or beloved, and which should be less popular, in your opinion?
Do you have a preference of which I should say first?
I don't know. It's up to you.
More popular, I think, as we said before, Carolina Change is a great show.
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't love that show. It's so good. It's got
such a
so many...
It's like a simple show. Like if you said this is the plot of the show, this is what happens. No, well, no. I mean, like in the action.
A simple story.
A simple
story.
That's what
Yeah,
I meant.
simple
The
story.
plot of it. I mean, it's just like a very just like couple weeks or whatever or month in a woman's life who's very depressed and it's like everything's. But it's like there's also a lot more to it. But I loved it. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, and it's funny
Right, I mean, I
because
was gonna
Alex,
say,
you know,
it's
both-
also a
both-
show with a singing washer and dryer and
Right.
octopus,
Right.
which is not so simple.
But I love
right, and it's certainly not simple in its staging.
Right.
You gotta have some production value
But I
to
love
not make it look terrible.
theatricality, and I love
Rivalry.
expressionistic touches, and I mean it's it's the man Tony Kushner, and that's what he loves. That's Angels in America, which we are not going to talk about more because it's not a musical, but that's I think what we like about that is one of the things we like about it is it has calls for big, huge spectacle moments in addition to very heartfelt drama, and that's very much in Carolina Change in a cool way.
Yeah, that's definitely one. I do. Again, I talked about Parade a little bit earlier. It's a good listen. It's not a.
It was a dream role for me, and I did it.
Yeah.
At community theater, but I did it. And
that's right. You did. Yeah.
It is. Man, it's not fun to do. It's not fun to see. I would have like people come to see it. They're like, "You were great." I was like, "Did you like it?" And they were like, "The chairs were uncomfortable."
Why do you think they didn't like it? Because it's not great
It's so
subject matter
long.
for a musical.
What show?
Oh, it's
what are we talking
long.
about?
It's long and
Parade.
it's depressing. Parade. It's a musical about the Leo Frank case, which was a murder trial, turn of the century, Atlanta. He was unjustly accused, no physical evidence, and basically, but because he was Jewish and people didn't really, always thought he was different and strange in the town, and they were just eager to pin it on him, kind of. And it was a true story that inspired the creation of the Anti-Defamation League, so that's a bit of history there as well. But yeah, it's a musical that is extremely, as you can imagine, not the most fun.
No, not the most fun.
Okay,
Yes,
wait,
Emmy did bring up a good point here. Emmy saw me also. I did Parade another time in a teen theater production that was performed at Georgetown Prep, the alma mater of course, Brett Kavanaugh and many other very wealthy rapists. I'm sure. I don't want to just make it just him. There's plenty more besides him that went to Georgetown Prep.
Not all Bretts.
Not all Bretts.
No, just Kavanaugh and Favre.
But likely a Brett, to be honest.
Kavanaugh, Favre.
I know one really good Brett. I got a cousin named Brett. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not just taking it against you just having the name Brett, but
No.
Yeah.
but it's not a great legacy. Okay, Jack. Well, now give me the hot takes. What musicals?
Hot takes. Okay. But one more. Sorry, I know we talked too much about Carolina and Parade, but Sideshow, which we were going to originally talk about today, is my other 100%. I don't know why people don't love this show. It's so good. Alex, you were actually the person who introduced me to this show.
It's a fantastic score.
It's the score is so good, and it's such a weird little anomaly,
right?
And
it is not popular enough because
it is not
we were
popular.
going to do it, but I could not find a good production. The only production video I could find was a community theater, and I don't want, and it's not like me being elitist or anything. I just don't, if I don't know the show, I don't want that to be the way that I'm assessing the show itself. And I can listen to the soundtrack, but and I would also if I could ever not find a production video of a show, if I could get the soundtrack and then like a copy of the script to read it at least. I think like that would probably be enough, but I just didn't. I was like, I don't want to just judge it by like some performance videos, and because I'm not that familiar with it besides the few like Come Look at the Freaks and like the Love Me As I Am or whatever. Is that it?
That particular, yes, that is it. That particular community theater production was after the rewrite for the revival that happened in 2014. Which so not only apparently if you see the show, it's a lot darker, which I think could be cool. But they did some very weird rewrites that if you're just listening and then just seeing that, it's not the same as seeing the original production and listening to the original production.
And that's an example of a show that opened and had maybe 72 performances total, closed because of non-interest, and then someone said, you know what will fix this in 2014? Why don't we move some of the songs around? Add a number, subtract a number. Oh, it didn't work again? Oh, interesting. Okay, cool.
Musical,
now we know that.
Like they love to do that. They love to have something become like a cult favorite, and I think in the case of Sideshow, it's earned, like that's a worthy cult favorite, or like Bat Boy or something is another one that's kind of like the same thing. But then like and I'll always bring it up because I had to watch it for this fucking show, and it's a terrible show, is Carrie the musical. It should have stayed the biggest Broadway flop ever, and they tried to revive it, and people think it's good, and it's not. It's terrible. That is truly the worst musical ever. And I saw and the production I saw was really good. It was a Seattle production with Alice Ripley, who's crazy as shit. If you want, you can give me a bunch of bits, and we'll have to listen, or I will have to listen to Alice Ripley do the Peppermint Twist for a minute and a half, which is a very insane video if you've never seen it.
Very insane. I think it's the thing about Sideshow that's so interesting is that like it had such a short run, like it really did. But it also like it wasn't recognized. It was. I mean, they were nominated for multiple Tonys, and I mean, but I think part of the issue, and I think even part of the reason why, because the revival did even worse than the original, because the original ran for 91 performances, and the revival only ran for 56, and so it's just like. I think part of the reason that show was, and we kind of talked about this, Bobby, when we talked on New Year's Day about Passing Strange, that it was sort of lightning in a bottle with that cast, specifically with Emily Skinner and Alice Ripley, because those are two women who have voices like jet engines, and just are so and are both of similar height, of similar look, but also both have like very similar not similar, both very interesting and intense facial features. They both have like a really like specific look, and then
Alex was frozen like this for a while, so
I know Alex was frozen like this. To pair that with those jet engine voices for that show is you can never, it won't ever be the same.
And we should say for the people that don't know Sideshow that the reason that them being like similar builds and heights is that because the lead characters are conjoined twins they're Siamese. They're like the stars of this Sideshow attraction kind of, but they fall in love with different men, the same man. What is it?
No, they fall in love. They fall in love with two different men, but their relationships with those men are plagued by opposite problems.
Okay.
Like one of them like basically can't get it up for her because of her condition. The other
is too
super into it, but does not want to be seen publicly with her.
Right. So and that was sort of similar to the real life of
Yeah, and it's based on a true story, right? Yeah. Yep. So I know I wish we could have watched it. No, but we needed to give it its due, and I'm glad that you remembered because I was totally gonna forget. But yeah, that was a real disappointment that we couldn't talk about this. But then I came up with the idea for Tommy, and I think that's gonna be awesome.
I think so too. Yes.
So,
but there has to be a musical that you think is overdone.
Yeah, no, that's less. That needs to be less popular.
Overdone. Right. I'm gonna say it. I think Hamilton.
Well, that always goes without saying, and
everybody thinks it is.
As Megaspell said. They can't say it in the chat. It is a banned word. Alex was the one. Alex is the mod who banned it in the chat.
Oh.
So, and that was like very early on. That was one of my very
Look,
first streams.
The left wants to do censorship, and that
It's
is
cancel
me.
culture. It is
I'm
cancel
canceling
culture.
Hamilton. I am throwing away that shot. Okay.
Throwing away.
Oh,
that
Abby's
shot.
always going to shout
I
out
don't-
title of show. She does not like title of show.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Oh, but I saw you.
I don't.
For a second, it was in the script. I didn't want
I
to.
know. I sat there and I was like, huh. I said, okay, Bobby doesn't have a shirt on. Cool.
It was in the script. It was in the script.
I never understood why Cats was a hit as which is, I know, a controversial thing to say to you, Bobby. But I never understood why Cats was and is.
No, I mean, that's why I love Cats. That's why I love Cats. And it's also why when I finally watched Phantom just a couple months ago for the first time, I loved Phantom because I was like, this show is so weird and it's the longest running thing on Broadway and it's insane. I love it. Yeah. And that's how I feel about Cats too, is it's just like, how is any of this happening and why? I love it. That's just me. That's just my next impulse from that question.
So maybe not super hot takes from me, but those are the ones that
you don't have any other like classic, more classic musicals that are like maybe overdone.
I don't love a lot of the like classic musicals. You know, like I'm never gonna go see a production of Carousel. I'm never gonna go see State Fair. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like named after like Industrial Revolution shit, like Railroad.
I'm gonna go see Fiorello, the musical about Fiorello LaGuardia, like
Quentin time,
former governor of New York. That's a real musical.
I have appreciation for them in their time, but I don't care about them.
Right.
I don't love The Music Man. I know a lot of people love The Music Man. It's considered a classic. I've never really liked it very much. It's kind of annoying to me.
I mostly just want to play the part. This is my thing.
That's fair. That's fair.
That'd be a fun part to play. All right, last question, Jack. This is a good one for you. Yeah. The musical of your life. What are you singing as your 11 o'clock number? Like, it's all being summed up. It's, you know, you've learned a lesson and this is what you've learned, or whatever your 11 o'clock number is. What would it be? Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a musical number. It can be an existing, like, pop song, or it can be even, it would be some kind of song like this or something that you just, like, doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, I gave this question some thought, Bobby.
Oh, okay, great.
I did, because I don't feel that my life is particularly exciting, and that's okay with me. But I felt like I did need to choose a musical theater song because, well, that's just how I felt about it. So I think that No One Is Alone from Into the Woods, which is really only an 11 o'clock number in its placement, right? It's not a showstopper. It's not something that brings people to their feet.
It just happened to happen at 11 o'clock.
It just happened to happen at 11
o'clock. Children will listen, or maybe no more would possibly be the 11 o'clock.
Would possibly, right, could fit into that.
You could also even say Last Midnight is its own, its own 11 o'clock number for The Witch as well. Sorry.
Yeah. But I've always liked that song. I like the message of it. It is a song that I go back to a lot. And I like that show. That's one of my favorite shows. So I do like to. It's one of my favorite shows to listen to. Well, and the PBS taping of it I watched a lot as a kid.
I will say that PBS recording of Into the Woods is very, very easy to find online.
Oh yeah.
Where you watch videos.
Oh, very easy. Yeah.
The entire thing in its entirety. So if you haven't seen that, that is a really excellent production.
It is. I would recommend that certainly over the movie any day. It's just that watching that cast is really fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. I mean, Joanna Gleason, like they're so funny. It's just like, it's like so just laugh out loud funny.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. We've got a lot to get into.
Question.
Yes.
We do. I'm sorry that was so long.
No. This is as long as it takes. It's perfect. What is it, Alex? Yes?
Hi, over here in the corner. I would love to get the guests' take on what they think the 11 o'clock number of the Who's Tommy is.
Oh.
Because I was just thinking that's difficult, and that might be a fun segue. But I'm just in the corner.
That is a fun segue. Hang on,
let me
pull up the track listing real quick.
You're already so mad you decided to let me on this.
No. I couldn't do it without you.
I saw your eyes get furious for a moment. Don't lie.
No,
Let's see, what is the 11 o'clock number in Tommy?
Is it We're Not Gonna Take It, I guess?
That's tough because I feel like I feel like the second act is the problematic. The second act of Tommy has some really great numbers, but the story itself really nosedives.
We're gonna get into it, but
it kind of devolves.
Let's not dance around the fact that this is a musical that is based on an album that some 20-year-old horny dumb rock stars, like 20-something-year-olds, like they're like, wouldn't it be random if he couldn't see or hear, but he's really good at pinball? Like that's really what's animating this. I mean,
yes. Yeah,
it's a show only cocaine could create.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think like placement wise, I'm just looking at the track listing right now. Like, I mean, I guess We're Not Gonna Take It, but how?
I think it's Sally Simpson.
Oh,
I also think that it's Sally Simpson in that's when we're introduced to a new storyline, which is
right there at the very end, like a good musical.
But it's
But I would agree with you that I think Sally Simpson and what's interesting about that though is that it's not really a self-contained. Because Tommy operates as sort of an opera. It's not a self-contained song. It's an introduction to a character by other characters where they do the whole outside the house Mr. Simpson announces bit, and we're introduced to Sally, and then Sally sings a little bit, and then somebody sings a little bit, and Sally sings again, something, and it's kind of a weird. It is strange. I don't know that Tommy has a definitive.
Yeah, I think, not all shows have them, and I don't know that Tommy does.
And I think like putting it in the because I spent quite a lot of my life. I think I froze, but
no, you're back.
A lot of my life doing sketch shows, right? Like 2-act sketch shows that basically function, the way a normal theatrical experience would, except because they're sketches, you're not following one story. So like the way that you discuss parts of the show are different from theater. So I think that Tommy functions more as a second act run out of a sketch show than it does like an 11 o'clock number, meaning once we get past I'm Free and into Tommy's Holiday Camp and beyond, we are in the run out of the entire show. Like everything now is accumulating energy to get us to the finale versus like there aren't a lot of plot bits to hit and a lot of reaction. It is a whirlwind
and when you say
energy
run out, that's a good word for it. That's a good term for it for this show.
That's what it's called in sketch comedy, is like you are hitting out everything so fast and moving so quickly that it delivers you at the stillness at the finale.
Well, we have a lot to get into here, but we're going to take a 5-minute break because we got into a lot already. Yes, very good, very good. So yeah, everybody stick around, and the time is currently 8:53. We'll be back around 8:58, or we'll just call it 9. So we'll call it a 7. All right, everybody. We'll see you. 7. We'll see you in 5. We're back. Look at that. Oh, it's so nice. So nice.
We're ready.
We have a good break, everybody. Water in, water out, as a certain professor that we had in college used to say. It's really gross.
Right. He's talking about pee-pee.
He's talking about pee-pee.
Talking about pee-pee.
Which is another show we did in college. Pee-pee Town.
That's right.
We did.
Yeah. So that
was where your first bad review came from. Was it correct?
Alex. Well, that's okay. Actually,
that's right.
That is a great way, because I think
right before Tommy.
Well, yes. So I think that is a really, really great way to get us into this, because I think a good way to start is to give our context of our history, our shared history with this show, having done
our lived experience.
Yes. Yeah. But I think to give that context, that is important. The year we start in 2006, actually. fall 2006, every single college with a theater department that it does musicals is doing the musical Urinetown, and we are one of them. James Howard, reviewer for BroadwayWorld.com, very, very serious website that realized if you review community theater shows, people will share it around, and then they get a lot more like ad impression clicks and stuff if they review everything. And
reviewer for BroadwayWorld.com/Baltimore.
/Baltimore, yes.
Well, yes. Well, that's the other, like, BroadwayWorld.com is like the blanket, and then there is a BroadwayWorld.com for whatever your area of the country you live in. So I'm like, right now I'm in Broadway World DC, actually. And then there's Broadway World Baltimore. And, you know, but he had reviewed all of us, I think, before in various shows, and he was this person that got a big, like, I don't know, he really thought that he was the shit because he would post these things that were like, the 10 upcoming talents of Baltimore or whatever. Like, he was some authority on, like, young talent. And so I think, yeah, Alex was probably on that list at some point. I think I was. Jackie might have been. I don't know. Do you know if you were ever on that list?
I don't know if I was on. I don't know if I was ever on that list. He was surprisingly nice to me many times, but.
Yeah, but he was also just kind of a weird guy, and just would be like, the way that he would heap praise on people was just kind of weird. And
let's just say, if anyone watching knows the musical Tommy, he might be a person that you could call in to audition for Uncle Ernie.
We're gonna get into Uncle Ernie. There's a whole 40 minutes of this show that are going to be about Uncle Ernie. So don't worry about that.
He very much favored attractive gay college actors.
Yes. Who were doing the things that he wanted them to do.
Right. And so he came to see us in Urinetown, which is a very broad comedy that plays on archetypes and musicals. And Alex played the part of Mr. McQueen. And Alex made the choice that I believe most actors that play the role make, because his name is McQueen.
And he is he's the secretary, the executive assistant to a queenie, bitchy, evil villain.
Right.
Because I played it with a bit of Faye, I was.
And he played it up, and he was very much.
Just follow me on Twitter, and it's my pin tweet. You can see what James Howard said about me. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, he basically, actually, I am gonna pull it up. I am gonna read it because
you should read it.
It's too good. Let me do this. Allow me.
I don't like to talk about myself.
Allow me.
I'm just gonna.
I need a good dramatic reading of this.
Okay, here we go.
That's great.
Similarly, and most disappointingly, is Alex Kliner's Mr. McQueen. Gone is the actor who is simply brilliant in TU's The Adding Machine. Here, he lives up to his character's name, playing a flaming queen. One would hope that an actor with his skills might have come up with something more original than the usual gay stereotype. I am certain that, and then this is where James starts wilding everybody.
This is
Get ready.
Gets wild in the year 2005 or whatever.
Up to this point, it's like, fine. He was offended by the portrayal and said he didn't like it.
I put too much switch on it.
Sure. This is where James Howard goes off the rails, everybody. Okay, one would hope that an actor with his skills might have come up with something more original than the usual gay stereotype. I am certain that were he of color and came out on stage talking like Brer Bear eating watermelon, he and the director would be called racist. But I guess perpetuating similar stereotypes of gay men is okay, since both he and we are laughing at it. Let's all sit with that for a bit.
So that was the first bad review I got from this man.
So then we do Angels in America the next semester, and he does love Alex's performance. However,
he said, "You're back." Gone is any notion of stereotype. He's now fully rooted in his gay character, and it's like, yeah, bitch, because Angels in America and Urinetown
are different
two very
shows.
different shows tonally. One is a musical about pee-pee, and one is about, once again, the AIDS crisis.
Right. So yeah, so he's already mentioning it in that review, but it's a glowing review for all of us, and so we're like, whatever, disregard it. Then, Alex, why don't you get into sort of now your impetus for like wanting to do Tommy? Like, just let's start with your history with Tommy, and then up to then deciding and the process of getting to direct it during the summer at college.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much. I'd love to really just dig in deep here. No, basically, I was in Tommy in high school, not a high school production, but a community theater production in my community of Tommy. And I was cast as the hawker who sings Eyesight to the Blind. And I was cast as, it was a swing part that was the hawker and the specialist, which is also another incredible song. Go to the Mirror / Listening to You. These are like the whole show. I didn't really listen to it, like the album a lot when I was a kid, but like when I went to this audition and I got cast and I like started listening to the soundtrack, I'm like, oh, this is the coolest music I've ever heard. Every note feels like triumphant. This is like, and as a musician as well as a performer, like I was like, God, I wish I would someday be in a situation to be able to play this music in front of people. And so our theater, and so I was in my summer between junior and senior year of college, I think, or my summer between senior year.
Oh, and your extra semester.
Also, when I stayed an extra semester to write my thesis. I think it was that one.
No, I think it was the one before. I think you before mine. It's true.
Regardless, what is time? Who cares? Towson University historically hosted some sort of theater festival during the summer. There were always like plays or something in the theater, but they weren't going to do it that year. So the chair of our department reached out to students and said, hey, if anyone has a pitch, we will produce a student-directed show in our theaters over the summer. You know, you just got to be around. You're not going to make any money off of it, but we will pay for the royalties. We'll give you some production cost to a certain degree, yada, yada, yada. And I said, what a perfect opportunity to make that, happen.
And you happen to know a lot of rock musicians already. I mean, so the first show that we did together was Hedwig and the Angry Inch when I was a freshman, and Alex music directed that.
That was my first music directing gig. Yeah, it was directing the Hedwig that Bobby started.
And Nick Jewett, who we've already mentioned in here, was the lead guitarist for that Hedwig band, and then he was also was he like assistant music director, or is that not official, or was he just kind of?
At that time, if Nick's watching, which he's not,
he's not. He's a dad. It's okay.
He had not demonstrated that he was worthy of the title assistant music director. However, he was often used in that way.
Right, because Nick is he knows his stuff, and he's a very, very good guitarist. Yeah.
Very guitar energy, unlike a pianist energy, which is on time. Ready to work, and that
is some guitarist shade, and you're welcome.
That's some tea, honey.
Spill.
Sorry, was that too gay for you, James Howard? So anyway, we're like, okay, we're like, okay, the Who's Tommy. If you watch the original Broadway cast recording or the original Broadway cast production starring Michael Cerveris of all people. You can see that it's not a show that you can pull off on a small budget. It is incredibly detailed and visual. You're not in a location for a lot of time. Like, spaces don't make a lot of sense. So unless you have the budget to keep flying in pieces to indicate where you are at all times, you need to start making some creative decisions. And I think that, and so that's what we did. And there is a really amazing recording of The Who's Tommy. And again, when this album came out as an album by The Who, this is a concept album. The album tells a story.
Right, and we should say that it's like, it's really revolutionary. I mean, like, it's like one of the first like rock operas, concept albums. I mean, like, the idea of it being a continuous sort of narrative. I mean, like, you know, sort of like Sergeant Pepper's or things like that kind of toyed with it and stuff, but like there was a central character almost, and like a clear sort of arc and all this sort of thing. It's pretty wild, but at the same time, it is like just a kind of a collection of wouldn't it be cool if, like, wouldn't it be like and that's fine. I mean, like it and Jack, you talk about lightning in a bottle before. I mean, I feel like they kind of like randomly trip into, there is a lot of profundity in like about celebrity and about you know, even how you how an individual trauma gets like collectivized like through like idol worship or whatever. I don't know how consciously they were trying to do that is the thing, but it's still like it's cool that, you know, that's there.
Yeah, well, and so, like, you know, you got to remember also, so this album comes out in like 1969. The movie comes out in 1975. It is not adapted for Broadway until 1994. Right. So,
and they're very different things. Like the movie and the Broadway show are entirely different adaptations of the
So
album.
when we were planning our production, we had a lot of sources to like look at. We knew we weren't going to be able to pull off the, you know, giant spectacle Michael Cerverus version, and we know that the movie was kind of, we didn't have the books. We had the scores to the musical, which is pretty close to the album in a lot of ways. Like, I think Pete Townsend worked with the arrangers who made the adaptation for Broadway. Like, the music of the musical sounds like a very polished version of the music from the album. Whereas the music in the movie was a lot, like, there were songs rewritten. There were like I noticed entire vamps shifted from major to minor. They made a lot of like big decisions with it. So
and they wrote a lot of like original things.
Yeah, new music for it. They
did not carry in to the
totally. And then they threw all that away when they made the official The Who's Broadway version, right? Which is why you have to like, I think, give credence to the Broadway version as like, it's not just some assholes going in taking a great album and saying, now it's theater. It's like, this was actually a project of at least some of the members of The Who.
To like really just Pete Townsend. Right. Apparently, Roger Daltrey and John Entwistle thought the show was too passive, which I will get into like sort of the difference, the fundamental difference in the take on the story between the movie and the show. But Alex, continue just telling the story.
Exactly. Just to wrap it up, there's also a 1989, and Jack and I were talking about this right before we came back from break. One of the biggest inspirations for our production was this 1989 concert. Like, I think that's the 35th anniversary?
25th anniversary.
No, 20th anniversary. If it came out in 69, the concert was...
it was the 20th of the movie. Or sorry, no, 1980.
Of the album.
You're right, 30th of the album.
And then the musical came out 25 years after. So 5 years before it was a stage show, they did this concert of it that had part acting, because also you have to remember that like The Who's Tommy it's a rock opera, in that I don't think there's any scripted lines that don't happen within the meter of a piece of music. Like, it's not like scene happens, cue this song. It's the music is running throughout like a wall, and then you sneak in spoken parts, but mostly it's sung. And so they had these people, these amazing guests come up. So instead of like the lead singers of The Who, Roger and Pete, singing every song the way they do on the album, they brought in guest vocalists to bring these songs to life from a Turk's perspective. And we started watching that kind of much more closely and a lot more intimately and say, okay, there's a way to do this. This is a rock concert. Our show is a rock concert. And we had this amazing, like, so not headpiece mics, which bite us in the ass and we'll get to in the review, but like mics on stands. We had this amazing lighting designer, you know, like once we told the lighting team that we weren't very close with this, like, you know, actor types, like, you know, going over to the tech people and being like, hey, you want to do, it's going to be a rock concert, but it also takes place in a pinball machine. Can you make me a giant chain link fence for the back of the stage, for upstage? and run chaser lights through it. So we had this giant like,
and we're not talking
wall,
like
20
Christmas
wall.
lights. We're talking like
No.
huge, like like
It's a
Lecos
wall
or whatever.
and we had
lights.
our school
Yeah.
had 5 or 6 Vera lights,
Yeah.
$5,000 moving
Yeah.
light.
And
He
there
got
were no
permission
other
to get
shows
them
running,
all.
so we took
No.
every light we could.
took
Well, no,
Yeah.
there was one other show running, but they weren't doing what we were doing. That is.
Oh, that's true. Mr. Marmalade.
Um,
They didn't need those.
They got the better theater.
I
but we
didn't
got all-
remember us
we got
running
one.
concurrently. I thought that one was one and then
No,
the other.
but we would have teched the. I mean, we
Oh.
The same
we
time.
wouldn't be
We
able to
teched
share
this.
lights. Is my point. And so we made.
I just want to like
band-
that 1989 production had Billy Idol as cousin Kevin, Steve
Yep.
Winwood as the Hawker,
Hawker.
which is great, and Patti LaBelle as the Acid Queen. So some really fun
And it
people.
brought back Elton John
Right.
as the Pinball Wizard, and Phil Collins was Uncle Ernie in that
Yep.
concert.
So you have these amazing voices, amazing personalities coming in as rock stars, being these characters within a rock show. So that's what we decided pretty much to go with for our production. And
And
Wall of Light.
right,
Wall
and
of
so there was a number of things that were eschewed, which is a nice word I like to use. Staging was fairly minimal, except for like maybe like rock out around the stage, like might happen. But there's not. There wasn't like choreography or any kind of.
we tried to put in choreo once.
I remember when Emmy tried to put in the and she immediately backed down. She was like, no, I don't know. And I that
said no, thank you.
Yeah, so that's. I think if like we could do it again, I think we were also like afraid. I think that we were like afraid it wouldn't look cool, basically, if you did anything, because we wanted it to be like a rock concert and seem cool. Yeah.
But so what we did do, and there's a couple things. One, from a visual perspective, I don't think our show ever ran the risk of being too visually flat. There was a lot of dynamism in the stage picture.
There was a 3-tiered level, like, and then like each of those there's like even it was like.
Yeah, and you know, like when the lover is shot, you know, close to the overture, we had that actor fall onto a mattress. We had a controlled stage dive
That's right.
from
we
when
did.
Tommy
He fell
walks
off-
up the side of the wall of a theater and like lands on a group of people holding him up. So it wasn't like it was just stand there. But I can't say that the staging that was employed was done with the eye of storytelling.
Right.
The storytelling came from the decision for me to use the printer at my temp job. I was working at the time, and I printed out the way that operas have a description of each song and what's happening. Now, I got dinged on that too by this reviewer because there was no house light up for people to read along. But for the perspective of a 19, 20-year-old theater maker, I think that we did a very good job. And at least all of our decisions were made deliberately and were not accidents or overthought.
Yeah, we were trying, and you were at the time really, and still really interested in sort of that blurring the line between rock concert and stage
And
theater.
musical.
So it was like we didn't want it to live entirely in either. I think maybe, you know, in retrospect, looking back now, and yeah, we were idiot children. We probably came down too hard on the side of rock concert, maybe, and needed to. But it was, I mean, great cast. I mean, our friend Danielle was the Acid Queen. People, I don't know if there's any DC area people watching, but Aaron Blyden, a name you certainly know if you know DC theater, because he has not stopped working since he graduated college. And he's like won Helen Hayes Awards and stuff. He was the hawker in our production because he just happened to be home from Maryland for the summer, University of Maryland. And he knew our stage manager, Sarah, from high school, and was like, yeah, so, and he was great. I mean, like, and that was a person we didn't know at all before the show. And yeah, it was a whole crowd. And our friend Ryan was Tommy, whom and our friend Will Carson was, he was he was Mr. Walker.
Like
and
Captain Walker. Yeah.
Captain Walker. And the Tori Katz was Mrs.
And
Walker.
Tori Katz played.
And
Bobby was cousin Kevin.
Oh, right.
Jack was Sally Simpson.
Yes.
It was, and so also if you know the stage version, you know that there's an age 4 Tommy and like an age 10 Tommy. You're supposed to get 2 child actors, and you know
what did we do for that?
What we did was we cast 2 women to sing the parts as backup singers.
Oh, right.
So that the visual representation of Tommy would always be done by an adult Tommy, or not at all, or that you leave a space where the child would be and have the actors look at it. Meanwhile, we see Tommy. Like appearing elsewhere, reacting to his own experience. But for the parts where like those 3 are supposed to sing in unison, and at the end there's this very, you know, it draws you towards this tableau where like adult, fully realized Tommy is flanked by his younger selves. They sing in 3-part harmony, reflecting each other as a mirror. We had 2 female backup singers to sing those parts because they're in a male child's register. You know, so you get the notes with them, and then you get this look of like this rock star flanked by 2 backup singers, which is, I mean, the decisions were sound.
I think they're great.
Damn it.
I'm doing every freeze frame. They're all so good.
They are. They're so good, and like everything was intentional. It's not like we were just like, well, we don't have this, so we'll just do this.
I
think everything was so intentional, and it worked. And I do agree with you, Bobby, that like maybe Alex, I'm sure you agree with this too, that maybe we did lean a little bit too much on the concert side of things. But I think that's because we really didn't have an option to do more.
I think the problem is the big supposition that we had, or that I had, and I will say that, the big supposition I had, the presumption that ended up being wrong, is that people would be as familiar with the material as we were, and then therefore could appreciate our decisions versus like having that experience set for someone seeing this material for the first time.
It's also just like an expectations game, I guess, because my thing is, having now revisited this a lot in the past week, having seen the movie, slime tutorial of the stage, the closing night of the Broadway production, I dreamt it, the entirety of it. It came to me in a dream. I think Jack had the same dream, maybe. It was the closing night of the original Broadway cast with Michael Cerverus. So I saw that, and I've listened to the original album as well. And to me, I think that the choice to really let the music and the songs be the star is probably the smartest choice, because, again, the story was not really made with like storytelling in mind. Like when they were coming up, they weren't thinking about how the story was going to play. They were like, any more than having a general arc of how the songs they wanted to go or whatever.
Right. I mean, it was more about the music and the songs and this sort of loose.
Because it was written by a band,
right,
designed to be performed by the members of that band. It was only later that they were like, let's cast people in these roles.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and then then there was a movie and all that, and the movie actually chops it up a lot more, I think, than the musical even does.
Oh, by far.
But before we get into the whole differences, we do have to just read. Alex is going to do a dramatic reading of we've hyped this a lot. This is the negative review we got from James Howard of BroadwayWorld.com of when he came to see our production of Tommy. So you can get us of when we say a controversial production, this is what we mean.
Okay, now this is long, but
you can feel free to yada 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 if there's any
yada
published July 27th, the year of our Lord 2007. Score 1/2 out of 5.
1/2 star out of 5.
How old are each of us? Everybody say how old you were in 2007.
I had just
everybody
turned 12.
Really knows.
Oh no, 22.
Yeah, and I would have.
Alex was 12.
Alex was 22. I was 21.
I was also 22. Okay, I just want everybody to know that we are children.
Right.
we are adult children.
Yeah,
we are baby.
Yeah.
We are baby doing show at our school.
So we start off with a star rating of a 1/2 star out of 4.
Out of 5.
Okay, 1/2 star out of. That's
you can't see it.
2 times Just 2 tines, not even a full fork. All right, sorry.
Yeah, this isn't Doughboys. Mr. Howard preambles his entire thing with, when I was a young boy, I played my records as loud as I could, and I remember vividly not being able to wait until my parents weren't home so I could crank it way up and lay in total darkness to really absorb the music. That's one sentence, by the way.
I don't want to hear about James Howard cranking it up.
Yeah, I don't want to know where he went.
I remember those 70s and 80s rock bands, Styx, Queen, and of course, The Who. Their music was incredible and told amazing stories. Emphasis his. Their music was close to show tunes as you could get and still be cool. Okay, all this I agree with. Fast forward to the early mid-90s and Tommy opens on Broadway. I couldn't believe it. I loved it, saw it many times, still listen to the cast recording regularly. A difficult piece, it is rarely performed. Well, imagine my delight when my inbox was hit with a press release for that very show at my alma mater, Towson University. And imagine how excited I was to read that many of the most talented young people we have in this area were going to be in it and create it. Imagine how disappointed I am to report that save for a few well-performed score and 5 decent performances, that this production, which opened last night, is substandard at best. It should be acknowledged from the start of this show that it is entirely produced, directed by, and acted by students. That said, I would hope that students would not be allowed such positions of power over a production if their department didn't support it and feel they could handle it. And before I get deluged by emails chastising me for not remembering that they are, quote, just kids who are still learning, remember that they are charging admission and advertising the show just like any other local production. Plus, I have had the honest pleasure to see nearly every person involved either on stage or as an observer of their technical, and to varying degrees, they are very successful, destined to make it big in whatever careers they choose. The band, Kenneth Hudson, Nick Jewett, Alex Kliner, James Milkey, and Corey Zook, is extremely well suited to playing this amazing rock score. There is absolutely no disputing that not only could they play it, but play it well. That much sound comes out of just 5 musicians is almost stupefying. You know what? I'll take it, because I will read on. 5 members of the cast really do the most they can with their roles, considering the intentional and unintentional constraints under which they are working. Danielle Robinette makes an excellent impression as the Acid Queen, viciously attacking her song with every fiber of her being. Bradley Birch's Dunalaski is so utterly creepy as Uncle Ernie that swimming in a vat of hand sanitizer might not make you feel clean enough after being in his presence. Okay, I will admit that at first I thought he was way over the top, but at least he brings some character and meaning to his time behind the microphone. In the small but pivotal role of Sally Simpson, Jack Keough again shows how terrific he is. He acts the hell out of his song and really truly understands the piece. Tori Katz as Mrs. Walker. Oh, where did I leave off?
The sentence about Jack, but it's fine.
I mean, really, in the middle of my review, which I feel
really
like is a personal attack.
Small but pivotal role of Sally Simpson.
Okay, you're back.
Keough again shows how terrific he is.
You're good.
You're good. It was only a half.
It doesn't want me to do this. No. Okay. In a small but pivotal role of Sally Simpson, Jack Keough again shows how terrific he is. He acts the hell out of his song and really, truly understands the piece. Tori Katz is Mrs. Walker, Tommy's mother, does more acting with her eyes than any 3 of the other actors. It is really very clear that she understands the emotional content of her songs and her place in the story. But the best acting comes by far from Tommy himself, Ryan Hayes, who is this is my editorial, is a twink, and his penis was very bulbous and very showing off.
Very tight pants.
No wonder James Howard. Also, he was very good, and I cast him. So
He was.
This is not too slight.
But
Mr.
Hayes. He's very well endowed and wearing very tight white pants.
Yep. Mr. Hayes, so charming and powerful as Bobby Strawhouse's production of Urinetown the Musical, equally mesmerizing here. And this is no small feat, given that his character spends most of the show in a catatonic state and most of his songs are internal monologues. It is even more astounding given how comparatively small his stage time is in this production. Mr. Hayes clearly has a future in musical theater, should he so choose. And that, readers, is the good news. All of it.
Here we go. You thought you'd heard it. You haven't heard it yet, folks.
Baby,
Alex,
this man is...
I want to thank you for reading my positive review 3 times in a row for the listeners to hear.
Yeah, it didn't actually mess up at all. We just wanted to hear.
I just wanted to know that I did a good job. So thank you.
Great. Now, please don't make me repeat the horrible things he says about May 3. Okay. In his director's notes, Alex Kliner warns us, quote, "The show you are about to enjoy is not musical theater." A bold statement, and one that lets us know that this won't be Tommy as we've known it before. He goes on to let us know that he has done his research. He knows there was an album, a Broadway show, and a movie, which he snarkily dismisses. Forgive me, Mr. Kliner, for though I agree with you that the film is questionable, aren't you just a tad young and inexperienced for wholesale dismissal of an iconic film? He then goes on to let us know
that is the line of this review.
Oh yeah, aren't you a little? And you know what? Now I read that to myself every. Still young. I'm still young. He then goes on to let us know that this will be, quote, a dramatic rock concert, as if this were some revolutionary concept he came up with himself. I didn't fucking say that, James Howard. I said exactly what it was. You fucking pervert. Anyway. If this, I guess his research didn't include the famous Who happenings where this piece was performed. His priorities are set with his final statement. I think you will have just as much fun listening to the music and watching the lights. Now, we talked about this already, and that is exactly where we landed. Anyway.
Anna, hello.
Okay.
Hello, Anna Lou.
Hey. Okay, so for him, it is the music and not the story it is telling that is paramount. Yes. An interesting choice for a director that, for all of the pretense of forgoing any theatrical convention, still has them, and forgetting a key word in his own label, dramatic, at the same time. It is a harsh lesson to learn, but when the show comes off well, the actors get much of the credit, but when it stinks, it all seems to be the fault of the director. Alas, here are a few lumps this director will have to take.
Oh boy.
Mr. Kliner.
Oh boy.
When he is in leading roles, is an amazing actor. His performance in The Adding Machine still haunts me, and his prior Walter in Perestroika remains one of the best I have seen of that role.
And now, sorry, just point of order. There was originally in the review at about this point hating on your Urinetown performance, but then we all got in the comments. If I remember correctly,
we did targeted harassment.
Like, what the fuck,
we did
man? Like,
harassment.
what does his performance in a show 2 shows ago have to do with him directing a show? And so he did take that line out after we complained.
Yeah, he said when he's not the center of attention, like he just is. Anyway, well, Mr. Kliner,
we all did some major Scientology work, and we got right in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Mr.
We did targeted
Kliner,
harassment. We were the first Bernie Bros. No.
We did. James would have won. You really don't get much more leading than as the director and conductor/keyboardist for the same production. But a good director knows that his recognition comes from the final product, and his stamp is all over it. And yet, you still don't seem satisfied. So you seat yourself prominently. He is the only musician fully in view, and he is not giving singers the cue in the bandbox, and bathe the band frequently in light. This certainly fits the music first take of the piece, but really comes off as an ego-stroking machination, even if you don't think you meant it that way. Now he's using second person. He's talking directly to me.
Well, and he's
again a 50-year-old man.
He's just so bothered having to see you as his production is getting him more and more mad, and he's just like, you're taunting him up there.
So mad online.
Yeah.
He's getting so mad at me.
And this is before the days, I don't think he had a smartphone. So he was really, I mean, he was sitting on this. He was really just
Yep. Oh, he
stewing.
was playing it through. He got into his Saturn L200 and he put on his tape recorder and he said, "Mr. Kliner, aren't you?" As he toots himself home so he can type this up on his word processor. Okay, particularly when there are several instances where things are actually happening on stage that are in complete darkness while the band plays on. A supreme of this example is the final image of Tommy, finally free to live his life as he chooses, standing rock star-like atop the tallest part of the set in complete darkness, while you and your chums are glowing in bright yellow. Not much is going on either.
Wait.
An hour and 45
It froze
minutes
after
of
you and your
watching
chums.
Kids act like they're
Alex.
angry at the world gets mighty boring when all it consists of is smug staring at the audience, some swaying, and all 14 cast members keeping time on their right foot, knees akimbo. By the way, when were we in relation to what's that? Spring Awakening. When did Spring Awakening happen?
That would have been like a year before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I didn't see it, so you know what? Fucking all of Spring Awakening's choreography. Why don't you go? Take advantage of your state's robust right to die law. Is what I'll. Then I don't know, but that's what I say.
Okay.
Because
Oregon does.
I'm just saying you can maybe look up and take advantage of laws that might help your son. An hour and 45 minutes, okay, blah, 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 some swaying and all 14. And then again, when it dawned on me that we wouldn't be seeing much else, I really looked closely. One guy in the ensemble has apparently seen Spring Awakening because he does a decent John Gallagher Jr. This is impression.
Is that Will? Our friend
This
Will
is totally
Parkett?
Will.
Yeah.
Yep. When he thinks no one can see him. Yet another man has zero sense of timing, unable to keep time with his angry boot-clad foot while mouthing the words the soloists are singing. No, maybe that. Anyway, the ladies don't fare much better. Apparently not a few of them started to realize that completely off the shoulder ripped baggy tops would eventually start falling, while others had trouble standing in spite.
Fucking queen!
Note to the customers, dangly jewelry and waist chains were the fashion, and in theory looks awesome, but in practice it gets stuck in wireless mics.
Okay, Henny.
Okay, I'm gonna move. There's still so much. Okay, so I'm just gonna move to the bitchier parts because
yeah, sure. Oh my god, I forgot he gave it to us with both barrels here.
I would just like to remind anyone that's still with us that this is a 50-year-old man.
Easily.
And a summer production at a college.
Summer production at a college.
By the way, we did charge admission. It was $5 US.
Right.
Okay,
$5.
It was $5 American, and don't worry, Mr. Howard, we sold. So thank you. Goodbye.
So, also, I believe.
Tell me how your blog
I believe he was
going.
probably comped because he was.
Sure he was.
He was considered press.
He was absolutely comped.
So he didn't even have to shell out the
press.
$5. You cheap bastard.
Right. Okay. So
sorry.
blah blah
Please,
blah blah.
Please continue with this nasty.
First, trying to eschew any form of theatrical convention, the company was directed to make dramatic, read angry, and rebellious entrances and exits by slamming in and out of doors and bright lit hallways. That is a fair criticism. We should have.
Well, that's always an issue with that Martyr Theater, is the light spill from the hallways.
Well, after the renovation.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. 100% of the time this was distracting, and more than 50% of the time it was blinding. Again, there are whole sections of the dramatic rock concert done in this total darkness. And Mr. Kliner, no curtain call? I assume you are making a point, but really, no one gets it, and it seems heavy-handed and pretentious. Be glad the audience wants to applaud your cast.
Alex, I know that, but just because this now pisses me off, because I watched this slime tutorial. I mean, I saw it in my dream. There's no curtain call.
Yeah.
It goes directly from listening to you,
it does.
and the whole cast comes out. It was like actually how we did it. It was like the cast coming out one by one.
A curtain call.
Right, and it just becomes a curtain call. Everybody does that. They walk off stage. Tommy stays on by himself and gets his own applause.
Yeah.
And there's not a curtain call after that.
And then he's gone because
Right.
the concert's over.
Yep.
And no matter how hard you cheer, there is no encore. Anyway. Second, their stage, okay, blah, 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 blah. Mad. Okay, we did have bad audio. And
Speaking of bad audio, no, just kidding. You just keep
well, I'm
starting
sorry.
stuffing. It's fine. You're doing great.
Okay.
Our best. We're all doing
Now,
our
okay,
best.
so yeah, he's just mad that, like, again, we didn't put Tommy in the scenes when he's a child. Tommy was watching the empty space of where his thing was. This is a decision, and I think that Mr. Howard would have probably written a more successful review if he had, actually grappled with the creative decisions and not just say that they weren't what he expected.
Yeah, for some
But
reason,
nonetheless,
like
this isn't a review of a review.
the student college production directed by a 22-year-old was like not wanting to deal with the logistics of having fucking child actors. Like,
Right.
Right.
Or not being
especially
able, or not being physically
right.
able to deal with the logistics of a fly system that we didn't have
Right.
in the black box theater from 1975.
Yeah, frankly, the Who's Tommy, the album, and that 1989 concert, our two biggest sources of inspiration, existed without live children. So we're going to be okay in celebrating the Who.
right.
Also, pardon me for not wanting to bring in children to be a part of a molestation sequence and a bullying sequence. So anyway, that said, here we go. Now some discussions about some other people. Third, because Emily Levin reminded me and several audience members of Halloween, where kids dress up as kids from another area. In an effort to modernize, I suppose, they went with 80s punk rock rather than 60s or 70s British punk look. Now, that was a big problem for him. Here we go. Bobby Libby, as Cousin Kevin, was trying to do his baddest, badass characterization. I'm guessing he was going for Sid Vicious or even Billy Idol. Again,
Billy Idol was the direct reference from the
Absolutely. But he looked like George Michael in the Faith era.
I'll take it.
Sis, that is
George Michael. He looked like George Michael in the Faith era, a hot pop rock star. He looked like a really hot pop rock star.
Yeah,
You fucking swine! Why did you look like a different rock star than the one I wanted you to look?
Right. Did he mean that as an insult? Because
this is a part of this bad thing. So yes. I was guessing he was either for, okay, blah, blah, blah. Other ensemble members were trying for the rest of the Sex Pistols, maybe, The Clash, but looked like Duran Duran just before their first breakup. Okay, so Sis is spilling tea about how fey we are. We're too queeny for him.
Before the first breakup. Before the first.
And that's...
Because he knows, he has the deep knowledge. Yeah.
And the girls... trying so hard to look naughty were various 80s Madonnas, a halfway decent Pat Benatar,
Alex, you
and
might as well be
Bangles.
Brer Bear right now. Careful with the voice. Careful.
I'm sorry, am I... excuse me, these words are in my native tongue. I can speak them.
Oh, okay, that's right. You can say, you can talk like this.
I can speak like this. Despite the gallons of hair gel and the generous amounts of eyeliner, hair and makeup by Brittany Morris and Sarah Farrell, little kids playing dress-up are still all it looked like. The set, designed by Ryan Hayes and Emily Levin, also seemed confused between a rock concert and being a stage set. He thought it looked like a rock concert and a stage. He thought it looked like what we were going for.
Right. I was confused.
But it's bad. But it's bad somehow.
It's like if he had come to like review like Rent, he would have been like, the stage, it's like a combination of like scaffolding and a stage. Scaffolding and like, it's like, what?
How am I supposed to know what's going on?
How could I possibly know if they're using representational set pieces? Okay. This seems confused. The studio theater is a black box. Not a bad choice of venue, actually. The pattern painted on the floor in bright yellow, and their entire wire casing on the wall painted similarly. It's chain link. The stage is a series of graduated platforms framed in metal with microphone stands placed around them. That's right. A large piece of chain link fence makes up the back wall, where many of the lights are hung. Are we at a rock concert or inside a pinball machine? Exactly.
Could it be? Why not both? Por qué no los dos? Like, what is happening?
The lighting designed by Justin Van Halen. What?
No, I'm just like that. He's like, it's like one of those things. It's like you're right there. How are you not like understanding? We're trying to do both.
You're taking all of the decisions.
You can say we failed at what we were trying to do, but you're like not even understanding. Yeah.
Right, like why in the world would you set a concept album rock musical like a rock concert and then also a pinball machine, probably the most iconic song of anyway. Okay, the lighting I'm thinking was a cross between rock concert and the idea that we were inside Tommy's pinball machine. I love good lighting effect. That swirling around Tommy as he begged See Me, Feel Me was pretty cool, and applaud attempts at creativity with them. But the majority of the lights just flickered on and off. They didn't flicker on and off, asshole. They strobed. Like, oh, this strobe light doesn't work. The strobe light just flickers on and off. What's it supposed to do, you idiot? And we're aimed directly at the audience. Again, wall of light. Yes, all deliberate. I'll even go so far as to say that the first dozen times we were blinded by the light were cool. But after a while, we actually didn't do that. So anyway. But after a while, it was annoying, but not nearly as annoying as spending several minutes watching things happen on stage bathed in total darkness. It's like being invited to a party and then being told to watch through a closed window. Okay, Tommy, we can't see you.
He's talking about all the weird sex parties he's gone to. I think
that's
he's
right.
Like, it's like when you're invited to the key party and then you don't get into the VIP room, so you're sitting outside and you've got your thing in a sock and you got a glass to the door and you're listening and it's not the same.
Okay, so these are the last two paragraphs. Tommy, we can't see you. But the biggest issue and nearly the entire audience.
My favorite line. Sorry, I totally forgot.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. It's like, Tommy, you're not even. Oh, Tommy, we can't touch you. You aren't even there. Right. This is he ends his scathing with three things about being deaf, dumb, and blind, and I think he thought he was very clever. So, Tommy, we can't see you. The biggest issue I and nearly the entire audience had was the fact that not a word of the lyrics could be heard unless Tommy was doing a See Me, Feel Me, or the music wasn't playing so that a few choice lines could be heard. I don't mean you couldn't occasionally make out words here or there. You couldn't hear 98% of what anyone said. I think that's a fair criticism. Like
and he came on at like a especially bad night for the mics or something too, I think.
Right.
So
yeah. He came on preview. Yeah. The 5-member band was amplified way too much, and the sound was coming from the same place upstage where the band played. If there were floor monitors or speakers elsewhere aimed at the seats, we couldn't hear them. You wouldn't angle a monitor at a seat, you fucking... I couldn't see them, yada yada. I suppose, and then he ends this section very snarkily. I suppose we should be glad we could, quote, have just as much fun listening to the music and watching the lights, end quote. Tommy, we can't hear you. Try as he might to let us think all is okay without emphasizing the story. Mr. Klein.
How long is this review? This review is like longer than most
long.
like
it's probably
movie
2,000
reviews.
words.
It's long.
It's insane.
We looked. It was by far the longest review he had ever written.
Yeah. He was so bothered. Because it's not even like he was wrong to give us a negative review if he couldn't hear us, didn't get the staging or whatever. But like how long he goes in on this is so crazy.
He was mad at us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's clearly written from the perspective of this Alex Kliner guy needs to be taken down a peg.
He was already mad at Alex because of You're in Town. He'd been stewing about that for like 9 months. Mm-hmm. And he...
But then saw me in Angels in America and said, okay, he
forgave you.
No, he didn't totally forgive him. He was on probation at that point. And then Alex here was fully canceled by James Howard.
Yep. So this is the very...
So I'm sorry, finish it, yeah.
Try as he might to let us think all is okay without emphasizing the story. Mr. Kleiner's concept doesn't work. As he smartly points out in his notes, The Who's Tommy is a rock opera, but he seems to have forgotten the opera part. And that is a huge emotional story. The amazing journey The Who promises us with Tommy is gone here. A vanity production of self-serving direction is frighteningly in its place. And so the director...
I'm frightened. I'm frightened of it.
Terrifying. I was the Donald Trump of theater. I took away all the
You have violated the space. You have violated the space of the theater.
I did Bodies and Spaces.
He felt unsafe in there. Having to see you be reminded of your offensive Brer Bear-like portrayal of a gay man in the very serious work of You're in Town.
I did Pink Face.
You did Pink Face.
Okay, so this is the last sentence. So we have the run out, if you will, here. A vanity production of self-serving direction is frightening in its place. And so the director got his wish, more rocks than theater. And like Tommy, we all had a chance to be deaf, dumb, and blind. Woo!
Let's see. Wow, 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 wow.
So I hope
wow,
y'all
wow,
liked
wow.
that.
So that was
I
that.
mean,
So
that's a grown man. That's a grown man
But I mean, like
reviewing high school kids.
like truly, probably like forever when I look back at college, like the most fun production because it was just the inmates running the asylum totally, and like how did we even get to do it? And honestly, that is so much better than a rave. Like we had that, and it was so funny and also galvanizing. But so the funny thing that, and Jack, I'll remember when we did this, was closing night of the show when like we do the curtain call, which is the listening to you I get the music, and it's everybody coming out. So and then it's like there was one point that we had decided we were gonna go right behind you, and we all turned around and pointed at Alex. We said right behind you and like pointed at him. So we're like, because we were like, he has to make it all about himself. Is like keeping himself lit so he can see his music. How dare he?
Right.
What?
I know.
Here's the so okay, like to speak
jerk about you having light over yourself.
He was offended at having to see you.
He has to see the music because he's conductor as well as the keyboard player.
Right.
Right. Well, and the decision. So, if for people who actually like, if you care about this, you know, like there is the stage. It's a studio theater, right? So it's not like there's a proscenium. It's not like it's a big black box that you can theoretically configure however you want to, right? That's what a studio theater. And
then there's around the perimeter, right, a catwalk.
Right, a catwalk with this one area that was recessed that you could use for storage. And it's probably, I don't know, 20 feet above the playing space and directly across from the booth. And that's where we put the band. So with these moving lights, we had these things where there are moments in the score, even in the theatrical score, where there's like 16 bars of like a guitar solo or like something amazing happen. And since we weren't telling the story on stage so literally, what the lighting designer and I decided to do is when we had these amazing moving light sweeps, and it wasn't like turn off the stage light, I feel like playing the piano in front of everyone now. We had these crafted moments where we would leave you on like a small gesture or something that one of the performers was doing. The light would then literally bring your attention away from them up to the band, so you could, like take a moment to hear like this awesome, 16 bars or something, and then it would sweep back down and something on stage would be changed. I mean, it wasn't as I guess I don't have a problem all these years later, like hearing that and being like, yeah, no, I get it. We as we mentioned, we probably could have done a little bit more storytelling and staging. Maybe that unit set thing didn't do us a whole lot of favors, but at the same time, he's taking the very concept of our production, which I repeat, was beloved by people who saw it, and sold out.
Yep.
And he took all those decisions we made and made them seem haphazard and not thought of. And that's what's so frustrating about going over.
I think that to him it was even worse than that. From his perspective, that it wasn't unthought of. It was that we thought we knew everything, and that's what offended him. Was that it's like, aren't you a bit young? It was that was the ultimate sin. Was you?
It was like that was so hit. I mean, whatever. I guess that's what's happening.
And because
you're a reviewer of things, is that you just it's all just your perception of whatever is going on. But yeah, it's that he didn't stop to think like, were any of these choices intentional given the parameters that they had, given the fact that they were in Black Theater working with a budget of $0, just whatever we had available to us, which it's not like it was nothing, but it wasn't everything. And, it's just the fact that he has so many complaints and criticisms for a bunch of kids.
I think probably the biggest sin that from his that I would say for that he did is that like instead of engaging with it, he could have opted to write his review and say, hey, look, I really did have a problem with not being able to see. I really did have a problem with not being able to hear. These are two things. But, I get what you're doing, and I will say that people seem to enjoy it. It sounded great from what I could hear.
The band,
and, yeah. And instead, what he decided to do was, like, pen a takedown. Like, there's a way to be like, okay, I get it. You dumb kids, you silly kids. Look, some really basic level things went wrong in terms of amplification. I hope you can fix that. Honestly, your concept didn't work for me. It was a little too no motion. But all good for you kids. Keep doing it. But instead, it was like Alex Kliner is a Nazi and he's an egomaniac and he bathes himself in light, and he did not make that decision because of love for the text or anything like that. He made that decision because he is a monster, and he is a monster from other plays I saw him in where he played a gay person in a way I didn't like. And yeah, it's pathetic. Anyway, I hope he's well.
Who knows? Who cares? But yeah, so we had to just start there and get into all of that with the production. But now let's actually talk about what Tommy is. It's 10 o'clock, so it's a great time to do it.
Yep.
So, like I said, it's an album from 1969. Your mom says she hopes he's dead.
Who does?
Your mom!
Mom!
Oh, that's amazing. Yes, Miss Roog coming in the chat.
I'm dealing with
violating the toss of
the
Twitch.
delay.
No, it's fine. It's fine to hope that it's fine. So yeah, it starts as this album by The Who. It's a huge hit, and they make a film of it in 1975, directed by Ken Russell, and it's weird as shit.
Oh, it's so weird.
It's psychedelica. It's all like...
Yes. It's got some awesome, weird visuals. If you're the type of person that, like, you're like, I'm in it for if something is really weird and just, like, has engaging kind of visuals and stuff, you'd probably like it. It's very strange.
It has a lot of those sort of art house movie tropes of the 1970s, where it's a lot of very weird visuals and very psychedelic to sound very uncool. But it relies on a lot of that in sort of the visuals that a lot of the art house films were going for in those days, where it's like kind of seems like manic camera work, and then a lot of very strange visual green screen or whatever.
Yeah, and it feels very segmented. Like it almost like it is like kind of almost like a series of music videos. It's like one of the first music videos in a way, because it's like it does string more of a narrative through it, but it
breaks up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Breaks up the album. It breaks up the album in ways that aren't done years later in the stage musical. I mean, it breaks open the album in huge ways. So they were like, it was a huge departure, I think, for the people who put it together from, The Who.
Yeah, and but The Who is all in it. Roger Daltrey stars as Tommy. Pete Townsend appears. Keith Moon is in it as well before he passed away, and he plays Uncle Ernie. And Jack Nicholson is in it as the specialist.
Looking sexy.
And the star of the film, I mean, the reason to see it for me is Anne Margaret. Is
100.
Just fantastic. Really just a great performance.
She's so great. I mean, she really, I think she's the only one that gives like a really
Right.
like truly great, well-rounded in what is a complete acid trip of a film. I think she's the one that gives the best.
Oh, Tina Turner. Isn't it?
Tina Turner. Yes, Tina Turner for me now.
Tina Turner's in it, but I'm just saying, Anne Margaret's performance to me is higher on the list.
Oh
than
yeah,
Tina
yeah.
Turner. I think Anne Margaret carried.
Yeah.
It's just the whole movie is just so cocaine. I kept saying that as I watched it today.
Wild.
Like that there are decisions made in that movie. Oh, it seems like I bet they had fun doing this.
Yeah.
Or I bet I could see them like 5 days of not sleeping being like, yes, why doesn't the beans that we're going to invent this bean song?
I've added
We're going to
beans
invent this
now.
whole new song. Huh?
There's now a gif of Anne Margaret with the beans. She's
Wonderful.
She's smearing herself in
So
beans.
go ahead and spam that in chat. I don't have chat open, so I don't know what's going on.
She's behind me.
But
Please go watch that scene. Just watch that scene. That's the
let's just all roll around in beans.
Yeah, in the whole movie. It's
And
wild.
that song is only in the movie, and it's not. And I like that song.
Yes.
Your mom says it borders on porn. It is kind of.
It really doesn't.
It is kind of a. It is a real strange thing because it's and I think that. Even though they're all kind of disjointed and it's like a series of music videos, I do think like what Ken Russell was trying to like do was some like a statement kind of about commercialism. I think with a lot of it, because sort of what's before that number, she's watching TV and then it's like drinking champagne or whatever, and then the champagne bubbles first come out of and like so she saw an ad for the beans like right before that, and so then the champagne bubbles. Yeah, and so then the beans
they were using that to launch the hyper commercialization of Tommy's the shit.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
No, I never didn't understand what they were trying to do with all of that. It was just such a weird choice of how they did it, and that they chose to write another song, right? Because they wrote that whole champagne song. That went in front of Smash the Mirror, which is the normal song that would go in.
Which also,
that,
Anne Margaret
place.
at the very beginning of that song is the very best because she's like, blah, blah, blah. I got
just all her.
It's so good.
I will say also vocal performances in the. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. There was
outside of Anne Margaret. Yeah.
There was like no fucking love for the melody.
No.
Like I'm remembering Anne Margaret even then in that Rise. I think in the album it is chromatic, but she's just one note. One note. Yep. And
there's absolutely no good. Oh yeah, I mean
Jack Nicholson looked like a fucking full snack. He looked amazing. Couldn't sing it.
This is Jack Nicholson at his hottest. I'm pretty sure like this is the very hottest Jack Nicholson.
But he can't sing a lick. And that is such a fun. I mean, in that moment in the musical, that's such a great vocal moment. And then even speaking of Sancho, Alice Ripley was in the original Broadway cast, and she does the harmony. That's one of the like greatest harmonies in the show, I think. Is the specialist, right? When he goes to the doctor.
Oh. Well, and the specialist is the great Norm Lewis from A New Brain, who sings "Sailing on a New Brain,"
and Sideshow. I think
he's amazing too.
Is he in Sideshow?
Isn't he Terry in Sideshow?
He might be.
I had planned to keep the temperature cool.
Yeah.
She's raising my Fahrenheit.
Oh, Miss Rug likes. See, I've been talking about Witches of Eastwick. To me, Jack Nicholson is. I mean, he's very charming in it, but it's also strange that he's considered so hot by the women because he's also very middle aged. But anyway, Jack Nicholson he keeps coming up somehow, and this is the only musical to my knowledge that he's done. Although he did write.
But it's the only musical he's ever done.
He wrote the screenplay for the movie. I don't consider it technically a musical. The movie Head, the Monkeys movie, which I have now watched.
Oh yeah.
That's more like it's almost like a sketch movie. It's like not a real movie.
Jack Nicholson wrote that?
Yeah. It's like very.
Wow.
It was them trying to like shake off their kind of image and like reboot it as like very like psychedelic kind of So it is very kind of like an acid trip, stream of consciousness. Like, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, the monkeys. Aren't you a little young and experienced to be shaking off an entire persona you'd cultivated for years?
Oh boy. I'm trying to get.
Yes.
But
go ahead.
but just in terms of the story of Tommy, what little there is, and like this is what I'm like, my biggest takeaway with Tommy is the music is so awesome, and it is have really cool visuals, and I will always at least check out a production, like see if it's worth seeing or something of this show, even though I don't think it's the strongest narrative or story or even like has a clear thing that it's saying that's so deep, but the music's awesome. And
but who is it competing with then?
Right. But but just for people like probably know the basic story is that Tommy is he's born, his dad goes off to war, and he's born while his dad's away at war. It's like 1941, or no, it's even 1930.
51 in the movie, because 21, the song that's supposed to be about
all the changes.
Mrs. Walker,
I can't even keep them straight.
Birthday.
Right.
They're saying I got a feeling 51's going to be a good year.
And I think they did that because they could not say that Anne Margaret was 21.
Anne Margaret looked 21. That's fair.
Yeah, no, they couldn't do it.
So his dad's away. They presumed dead, basically, because he's gone for so long. His mom's now with a new man. Tommy is a little boy. They put him to bed. Mrs. Walker and her new man are getting kind of lovey-dovey when, oops, who should appear but Mr. Walker? Now, Captain Walker. Now, here is the divergent point that makes a huge difference for the types of shows. For the film and the stage show, is that in the...
/ album.
I don't know, actually. I'm actually not sure in the album.
Really?
We'll talk about it.
Okay, that's fair.
So what happens is, so the Captain Walker comes in. There's a confrontation between Captain Walker and this lover. In the film, the lover, played by Oliver Reed, kills Captain Walker. In the stage show, the lover's like really goes crazy and is like going to strike, I think even Mrs. Walker with a chair or something, or he's like going to go after Captain Walker with the chair, and then he's shot by Captain Walker, so the lover dies. So how this makes them so different is that in the film, Anne Margaret and the lover are much less sympathetic, kind of, I feel, and then they're intentionally so. But it also does make more sense for What About the Boy? What About the Boy? He saw it all, because then Tommy witnesses whatever either crime that you want to say, when they say you didn't hear it, you didn't see it, don't say nothing to no one, never tell a soul, you never heard it, how absurd it will seem without any proof. That basically they're telling,
and gaslight Tommy
because he's the sole witness to their crime. In the film, this makes sense because like they were like lovers or whatever, and like they're covering up this whole sort of illicit thing. In the stage show, it doesn't make sense to me. Why Tommy? Because in the stage show, the next thing that happens is there's a trial and Captain Walker is acquitted because it's self-defense, really.
Upon the grounds of justifiable homicide.
Yes. Right. So why, and so that's, to me, the fundamental flaw, and it comes from just trying to assign too much specificity to the story. Honestly, I think that this show might do better being a little more loose with that. So I think that people that love the movie, I get it, because like that is kind of more in that kind of spirit, even if the voices aren't as good and stuff. Though there are some cool, I mean, certainly Tina Turner and. But let me tell you who's the worst. Fucking, and you know what? And he's a COVID denier now too, so we can even hate him even more. His fucking
Mr. Eric Clapton.
Mr. Eric Clapton shits the bed, and this is a good era of Eric Clapton. This is not need to be a bad Eric Clapton, but he like phoning it in is an insult to phones.
Okay.
He's
couldn't have done less if he tried.
For
with
one of the
that
best
song.
songs.
He does absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And even in, I mean, this is before the days of the stage version, so that's fine. But even if you listen to the original album, he does absolutely nothing with that song, and it is so disappointing. And
the song everyone
so
we're discussing
boring.
is "Eyesight to the Blind."
The Hawker,
Eyesight to the Blind,
from the album or from the stage show.
In the album, it's called "The Hawker," actually, and it's
Hawker.
sung by
Oh,
Roger
it is?
Daltrey.
Okay.
Called, right, Roger Daltrey does it on the original album, and yeah, it's called The
It's
Hawker.
one of the best.
And he does a great job, right? And it's a great song. Eric Clapton comes in and basically was just asleep through the whole thing. And it's so upsetting.
Well, and they
so
set it up so stupid. They made it way too long. They gave it this processional with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
I will say, Bobby, I would like to go back for a second and touch upon the divergence of who lives. I think it's stronger, ultimately, the decision made in the musical to have Tommy watch the only male father figure, or the only father figure he's, which is the man not his father, die. I think that's, otherwise a little boy is just seeing the stranger get killed.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but I think the trauma of like your mom's boyfriend, the man who you know is a father, this guy who you've only heard of, comes and kills him and then tries to take his place.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, like, as an audience and as Mrs. Walker, we know that now the family is complete, but from Tommy's perspective, I think that's much more traumatizing.
So I also think they did a disservice to themselves in the film by, because I agree with you, Alex. I think it would have. I think that the choice of Mr. Walker being the one that lives is the correct choice, because Tommy doesn't have because he doesn't have a relationship with him. I think the other reason that they did a disservice in the film was that they made I think they called him Frank in the movie. They made him a creep from the beginning, and Tommy immediately doesn't trust him and doesn't like him. And then they choose to be that's the one that lives. And it really, I mean, and they stay consistent on it. They go through, they take that whole thing through the journey of the movie. But it's like, it's a totally different, it creates an entirely different tone.
It absolutely does. Well, and that's why I say it's like such a key divergent point, because he's fully a villain. The uncle
and
Frank
can't
or whatever.
sing.
Well, yeah,
cannot.
Well, he's not pretending like he can. He's not pretending like he can. I don't mind it, actually.
Musical.
He's doing a Rex Harrison a bit.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't mind it from him. Because they take away.
I like the way the song sounded. I would like to hear their melodies.
They take away most of the like actual singing from him, like that, and so it's only mostly character kind of lines. So it doesn't bother me. But
fair. But another interesting thing to touch on. In the musical, there is one uncle. It is Uncle Ernie. In the movie, there are now 3 uncles.
3 uncles. Yes, thank you.
Only Will Menaker could want this many uncles. It is, we start at Uncle Bernie's.
Uncle Bernie, right.
No reason. Uncle Bernie's holiday camp. We now have Uncle Frank, who is the lover that ends up living. And then we still have an Uncle Ernie.
Yeah.
I want to know why there is an Uncle Bernie at the beginning. I do not understand.
There was that was such a weird stretch of them being like, we have to figure out a way to show why Tommy's mom gets together with this other guy.
Yeah.
And
so she takes him to Uncle Bernie.
But they didn't need to. They honestly, like, the whole first 7 minutes of the movie don't have. There's no dialogue, and it's just a visual telling of the story of how, like, Captain Walker and Mrs. Walker get together. He dies. She has a baby. You don't need to explain that. It's fine. We know he died. It's okay to just bring in another guy.
But
you
I
don't
think
need the explanation.
So they wanted to set up that he's kind of a creep and was going to kind of, and then it just gives a clearer take for how they feel about Tommy, and it gives something more interesting to play for those 2 characters than in the stage show, where they're just kind of good parents trying their best to help him, and it's just kind of a little bit like blah. And then they have a song where they're like, "Oh, here's our love" or whatever.
I believe my own eyes.
Yeah, which sounds different than every other song in the show.
It was. They wrote that one. They wrote
Pete
that
Townsend
one.
wrote it. Yeah, and
it is jaunty. It's a lovely little song. It is
a great show tune, honestly. It is a great musical show tune.
It's a great show tune,
which is why it stands
really
out
well in the
right.
Yes.
And even like from a nerdy musician perspective, like what's great about Tommy the music is like it's all primary. Everything is just so like everything sounds so satisfying, and like I believe my own eyes like musically like is much smoother. It's a lot more show tune like the chords blend, you know, they don't like smash you like the rest of all of Tommy.
Yeah, so
you know, like just da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Those are three big chords, you know, and that's the kind of feeling, the whole thing you get from Tommy.
So Lady Gugu's going off in the chat because she is team movie over stage show.
No, get out of here, Bobby. Get out.
But did she only see the slime dream that you had?
Yeah, but I've also played her a lot of the soundtrack too.
Lost in the okay, there.
But
but she didn't see the Towson University production.
No. But I think, and to Abby's point, that it's a more satisfying ending because over the course of this whole of Tommy, and we're not going to go through all the fucking beats of Tommy. He becomes a pinball wizard. They smash a mirror and then he can see, and he sings a bunch of awesome songs.
Yeah, he gets good at pinball because he's abused by his uncle and cousin. And he goes and he plays pinball, and he's amazing at it. And then he smashes a mirror, and then now he's no longer.
And then he becomes a cult like leader, and and then he decides he doesn't want to be a cult leader. Please stop now.
I honestly don't think either endings are satisfying.
That's fair.
I think that
agreed.
I think that the for me the reason.
Oh no, we lost your audio. We're losing your audio, Jack.
Shit.
No, we got you. We got you now. Okay.
I think that I think I pulled my headphones out. So I was very upset about it. I think the reason that the stage version feels better to me is that it kind of it's almost a little bit more abstract, right? Whereas it's like, because I said this before we came on, that I think the second act kind of it goes down some weird, hallways, and it ends in a very weird way, regardless of how you try to do it. But I think that when you do it in the stage show, it ends in a way that is a little bit more abstract, and then at least makes it feel like Tommy is still in control because of the way that they've set up his narrative throughout the musical of him being the one that's telling the story. Whereas in the movie, it's like, oh, you just had these terrible parents who are awful to you, and then they die.
But not by your own hand. It's not like he kills them. So that's the problem I have with that explanation, is that I don't agree. I agree with you, Jack, that...
But I wouldn't like Tommy killing them. I think that it's better because they're the ones that exploited. But they're the ones that exploited his fame and tried to get him more famous. And then when there's like this whole cult that springs up around him, which they again encourage and literally invite into their house, and then it predictably gets unruly and goes awry, then that's what kills them. That's their downfall, is that there's the basic riot. And I do think that it has a more finality to that ending that feels like an ending, whereas Tommy, you're right, abstract how the stage show ends and like what's even happening, but it's especially the arc for the parents is not satisfying for me in the stage show.
Well, okay, so maybe we should just explain to audience just real quick kind of the divergence that is created between the two. So how it works in the movie is basically after he's freed of his deaf, dumb, and blindness, he starts this career as a pinball, like a rock star, basically. But instead of playing guitar, it's a pinball machine. That's literally the imagery that's like kind of carries throughout. Are we at a rock concert? Are we in a pinball machine, Mr. Hammond? Yes. So he goes does that in the movie, and then people start following him, and he welcomes them into his house. This also happens in the play. He welcomes them into his house. He realizes that everyone's in it for the wrong reason, or they're learning the wrong things from him. They turn on him. They say, "You're not the Messiah we wanted you to be." Then they start tearing everything down. At Tommy's holiday camp.
Now, but wait, real quick, Alex. That sort of happened. Those two beats, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like him realizing that this is the wrong reasons, and the followers turning on him. That happens in reverse order in the movie, because in the movie, I don't think he's realized that everybody's following him for the wrong reasons before the crowd starts to turn on him. Is that? I mean,
No. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out
like
exactly what incites the crowd against
I feel
him.
like they start turning against him before he has his moment of being like, no, none of this matters. You're all doing this for the wrong reasons.
Right.
This is a nightmare. I think, and maybe I'm wrong, I could be, but I think they turn on him before that. Anyway, I'm sorry. Regardless,
no, that's okay. No, that's an important point. But the big takeaway from the movie is he has this cult. The cult turns on him. They totally lay waste to his entire like cult camp, and his parents are, well, his mother, his stepdad's mom are like killed in this. He then runs away and splashes around in a waterfall. Then in the stage show, it puts less emphasis on. So I think the takeaway of that in the movie is like, it spirals out. He's larger than life. He is a godlike figure to these people. That turns south. Everyone in his life is poison, is toxins. The people who were close to him when he was deaf, dumb, and blind, and these new acolytes he has, he must leave them all behind and truly be with himself. What happens in the stage show is that all these people, he's amassing all these people, but instead of it being a camp, they're like bringing him into his house. Everyone's at his house. And now like bearing witness to like, he tells them, they're like Sally Simpson's character is like, hey, why are we all following you? What can we learn? Can't learn anything from me. I just had a really shitty life and this horrible thing happened.
Yeah, and he's like, all I've ever wanted to be is like you. Like, that's, so what's, like, why do you want to be like me?
Right, why would you want to be like me? I want to be like you. Like, you can hear Michael Cerverus saying.
Michael Cerverus.
Michael Cerverus. And then they sing, we're not going to take it. And they're like, fine, fuck you, we're leaving. And it leaves Tommy at home with his parents and uncle and his family, extended family, cousin Kevin and Uncle Ernie, two of his abusers.
He does make sure to hug and forgive his rapist. Very good.
Right. Well, we will, when we talk about the next version of our classic show, we will talk about those things, probably offline though. But again, you still have that big crowd. They're all at the house, but they're not like doing, like looting and rioting or whatever. And they're just like, fuck you. You're just another false prophet. This is like, you can't actually help us. And he's like, you're right, I can't. Leaving him alone with the people who were around when he lost his ability to see, hear, and speak. And it's the finality, the conclusion is a person. It's not. I don't think it's abstract like you say, Bobby. I think it's just small. It's like it's about his relationship to them and the people who made these things happen to them.
Well, and I think it's also his relationship to himself, because that's something that the stage musical does do very well. Is obviously the imagery of the mirror. The song "Smash the Mirror." In the stage show, they have it blocked so that when Tommy witnesses the murder, he's looking at it in a mirror. So there's a lot that's like sort of connected through that. And so Tommy has a lot of these moments of introspection where he's singing with his younger selves are at the mirror. And so that moment at the end is also at the mirror. And so I think that has a lot to do with... And that's a lot of reckoning with your past, right? And like thinking about it's a representation of thinking about your journey, kind of, that you see these past versions of yourself, sort of thing. But you're right. It's that and the people in his family there.
Right.
The problem I have is that the family's not strong enough, and I don't care. And in fact,
Right.
half of them, 2 of the characters, are bad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, not in just in terms of like they are irredeemable. I mean, Cousin
Right.
Kevin has
No, I
more
wouldn't
opportunities
say
to kind of become
Right.
more of an
I mean-
acolyte of Tommy, and that becomes, and so does Uncle Ernie. But even then, to me, the lyrics and the story of the album supports more. That's not sincere, right? That Cousin Kevin and Uncle Ernie, that they are still exploiting him as they always have. To me, that's more interesting, but it's also more cynical. So like,
I agree.
So-
yeah, and I just think it's more cathartic. Like the more relationships you can mend in the last moment, you know,
Right.
just on paper is probably more theatrically satisfying on paper. Though leaving everything behind in Carnage, I don't think that the movie ending could, even if you had all the budget in the world, I don't know if you could do the movie's ending on a stage.
well, the Messiah.
No, you
Your
couldn't.
mom's asking.
I don't think you can.
We don't see the Jesus. Oh, sure. The like it definitely has a Messiah story
Yeah.
aspect to it, but I think it's the story of the album has always been that that's a thing that gets quickly put on him that he doesn't want or necessarily deserve even. He's, you know, and yeah, and
Right. So after he's cured and it's understood that people will now follow him, and he will become an influencer. There's a way to do this for 2021. I'm already thinking, but you know, like after all this happens, in the stage play, it is Uncle Ernie, his abuser, his decision to sell this shit, like to basically capitalize on Tommy's like success, right? In the movie, it is Uncle Ernie, mom and dad.
Right.
So like the movie lumps mom and dad. I'm sorry, mom. You know, Uncle.
well, they do
In with Uncle Ernie.
The movie does definitely go out of its way to make his mom complicated. Like they make her more sympathetic. She certainly is
Drugged out.
Right.
They lewd her up.
right,
So
but
much Quaalude acting.
but it's not an unsympathetic portrayal entirely. I think that she is meant to be more conflicted about everything, whereas the her husband or whatever is kind of an asshole.
Right.
The last
I just think the more people. Go ahead.
no. Finish your thought.
I was gonna say, I just think in general, the more people you can root for.
Yeah.
But I do think you're right. I don't think
that's-
it's strong enough as it exists that you can actually root for Mrs. Walker and Captain Walker and Cousin Kevin at the end. And certainly
no.
Ernie is irredeemable.
There's a
But,
but
like-
I think you can root for Mrs. Walker a little bit more in the stage version, because while she certainly does go along with things, right? You know, we have really only see her questioning things in like
we aren't actually ending. I screwed up. We're back. Hey everybody. I went to the end screen early. We're okay. We're back.
what was I saying? Oh, I think Mrs. Walker. Was I saying that she's more? I think she is.
Yeah,
more
she's going
sympathetic
along with things.
in-
With, do you think it's all right?
Yeah, right, and that within the movie, you sort of see her become part of the monster, where they don't do that in the stage version. So she does remain that's what I was saying. She remains a sympathetic character in the stage version, because even, you know, she doesn't really necessarily play along. She has a couple of moments where she objects or, you know, whatever. But doesn't fully go the Anne Margaret route
Right.
of being fully involved in the exploitation of Tommy, and really that's left to like Uncle Ernie and Cousin Kevin. That's really kind of how they leave it, and I think that, I don't know, that always made sense to me, that it's like, oh, the people who abused him when he was a kid are still going to abuse him as an adult, and they're still going to take advantage of him as an adult, and they're going to make all the money they can off of pretending like they've always been here for this person. And his parents have been absent in the background because they've dealt with their own trauma and weirdness, and they're just not paying attention to them.
Right. But it's
So
also important to
they're
remember
gonna
that by the second act, Tommy is an adult. I mean, really, by the end of the first act, Tommy's an adult,
Right,
and it's like,
right.
you
But I
don't
just
have
mean,
to
like,
see his relationship with his parents all the time.
Exactly, right. And that's what I mean, is that, like, I don't think that their relationship to him matters as much in the second act.
Right.
And they really, in the movie, within the second act of the movie, still had them being very active and very, like, you know, very much weird members of his cult and leaders of his cult, and Anne Margaret's in her weird
like in
headscarves, and she's
Sally
not wearing any
Simpson in the
makeup,
movie.
Exactly.
Oliver Reed is like they're like pushing Sally away, and he's like involved in that.
He stomps her hands. He like steps on her hands.
Right.
when she
Yeah,
tries to
that's
get on the stage. Like he's like one of his like bodyguards apparently.
Well, anyway,
Yeah, and
I am glad you brought up Uncle Ernie, because that's sort of the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Uncle Ernie of it all, and I've referred to him obliquely a few times because Alex and I have been having a bit as we do. As we tend to engage in a bit of an argument, of a playful debate, because we're talking about you're doing a production of Tommy now, like you're going to direct it. How do you do Uncle Ernie? Because I say I cut the song Uncle Ernie. You can still have a character that's like a drunk idiot, and have
you're talking specifically about Fiddle About.
Yeah, Fiddle About. Sorry, the song Fiddle About. Because that is a song that has the lyric, and, you know, it's cancel culture here, folks. I mean, I'm the one that said the Dr. Seuss book's got to go. I'm the one, it's me. So
Such a liberal snowflake.
As the head of cancel culture, I think that we should cancel the song Fiddle About, where he sings the lyrics about the boy that is to be, I think he's maybe like 9 or 10 at this point. It was down with the down with the bedclothes, up with the nightshirt.
Up with the nightshirt.
Oh, sorry, it's opposite.
Oh,
all the way around. Because
it's up. The nightshirt goes up.
I'm sorry.
Yes, down with the bedclothes, up goes the nightshirt. Fiddle about, and it's in the stage in the Broadway stage show on The Slime That I Dreamed.
Sexual assault,
It's staged very not as a joke, which it is in the movie and is messed up.
Well, Townsend has had anyway.
Yeah, it was actually John Entwistle, I think, in the movie.
It was John Entwistle.
Pete Townsend.
No, it is Keith Moon. It is Keith Moon.
True and on Island Hymn.
We're sorry, Keith Moon.
Yeah. I'm saying Pete Townsend as a person.
Right. So it's very, like, to me, especially because there's also a Cousin Kevin character who also tortures him. And those songs always come back to back. And I mean, and they're neither are very long songs. So it's not like it's a huge thing.
It's short.
Right. But I think that it's just like I had on, and the thing that bothers me about it actually isn't that the song is there. It's that it doesn't actually... like that doesn't so much play into his journey, that like he's specifically like molested or even tortured. Like it's because he's deaf and dumb and blind, and that's from the initial trauma, right? And so then this is like, so it's not clear to me how it compounds, it's just kind of also there to say that, oh yeah, he's had this like shitty childhood, which I mean it might be enough, but
I think that is, I think it's a device, and I think that maybe perhaps it works a little bit in the concept album, because maybe in the abstract it's a little bit better in the development of Tommy's character, where it's like, you know, he did have this thing happen to him where he was traumatized, and whatever his brain did, it shut down, and he's not talking, he's not seeing, he's not hearing, he's not doing anything. And then that throughout his life, he was then taken advantage of. I think it builds, right, to where he does get to this weird cult leader area, where that even then people are still just taking advantage of him. They're still just, you know, he's always being abused by someone. And I think, and maybe I missed it, but I think in the stage version, I actually liked the way they handled that song.
Yeah, they
do have a kid. They have an actual kid.
Right. And,
you know,
and
playing
Alex, they
Tommy at
kind
that
of
point.
did what like you were sort of saying, where it's like he gets caught, kind of is how it's staged before he can actually do it. But then what bothers me
Right.
is then you have the end of the show where he like forgives Kevin, and then he forgives Uncle Ernie, and he like gives him a hug. And why? What did he do to earn that? It's just like,
Well, it's magnanimousness.
well,
It is,
and it's
right.
like, of course, in 1969, like, and some 20-something-year-old British, you know, rock stars, like, they aren't going to like think about the implications. But I'm just like thinking about, as an audience member, potentially like a survivor of, you know, sexual abuse or something that's watching that. Like, I don't know. I want to be cognizant of, is it worth it? You know, and I guess it is probably, but it's just. I can't help but get squicked out by how I feel like that song was initially a comedic number.
oh yeah.
And that kind
Yeah.
of bothers me.
Well, I think in ways of coping, right? So like when dealing with things like this, so like if comedy, you do this before we've had these large public conversations. We had words like gaslight. We had words where we like really knew what trauma was. And vocabulary for unpacking trauma. One way that you can deal with these things is to play them for comedy. And it wasn't done in a way to minimize, I don't think. The intent wasn't to minimize a child being sexually abused. I think creators were working in the toolkit that they had. Like,
well, and I think that
like,
there's a trope too, right, of like the creepy uncle, right? And I think that was played up for comedy very recently. I mean, in like even you know, into the 2000s, probably early 2010s, even like of you know, you have characters like the weird like neighbor guy on Family Guy or whatever, who's always like, hey, Benny, and it's like, and that's weird that like that's kind of played for. I mean, and clearly the joke is that this is a bad person. You know, it's never like we condone this.
And then what you do with that with Mr. Whatever, the Family Guy character, is that you make him so feeble that he actually cannot harm you.
Harm anybody.
We don't see him attacking children. We hear his silly little quavering voice as he fantasizes.
Yeah.
Right. So like, again, you know, like, I think it's different. I don't think that you should run away from these horrible things because they're so distasteful. I think that there's just like ways to like minimize the impact. I think
well, and I think that's what I thought the stage version did well of dramatizing, right? Was that they didn't play it for comedy.
Right.
They had him,
even though that actor was very funny, and he had like a very comedic moment earlier.
Then later, later he gets to be funny. He gets to do his funny, stupid shit later when he does the Tommy's Holiday Camp scene. But in that scene, he really didn't do very much. He just sat with him on the couch and was very tense and just kind of held everything at a distance. And like you said, you know, they pan over into the bedroom, and then the parents come home and you don't see anything. But I thought that actor played that really well because he managed to embody the like terrible like creepiness of a predator, but they didn't have to go, you know, they didn't go too far in like they didn't make it a joke, and they didn't show you, you know,
and they also didn't like over and like indulge it and make it this like
they didn't
because they didn't have to, right? And that's
it was just that
I guess
held
that's
everything.
Yeah, that's I guess what I'm struggling with is like, how much do you have to do? And I guess there is a way, and I was struggling if there's a way to do it with the song, and I think there probably is, but it was just something, you know, to me it's like that same thing of like this is like one of, you know, this created the mold for rock operas and concept albums, and then there's and it's classic, and then there's this child molestation song in it, and it's wild.
So my pitch, I think, gun to my head, we start production on Tommy 2.0 tomorrow. I think my pitch is to leave the song in. You leave it in before Cousin Kevin. I know we were talking about that earlier. You swap them so that it comes in on the lesser abuse and ends on the higher abuse. But I think what you do is you put
Wait, it froze. It
And
froze right when you said, "I
there-
think what you do," and then it froze. It was so good.
Is you make cousin Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, fucking right to Comcast. Anyway. You make cousin Kevin definitely Uncle Ernie's son.
Yeah.
Tommy is definitely being watched at this house, where cousin Kevin and Uncle Ernie live. Right. You start with fiddle about. Now, there's in the score that part where everyone comes in, fiddle, 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 and harmonizing, and it keeps growing. That is where that whirlwind of sound is, I think, where the act takes place, right? The act of the actual molestation. What you do is, I think, you stick Tommy in a chair or something like that, and you stick Uncle Ernie near him, and he never makes contact with that actor. He is wrestling with his pedophilia. He is singing it out loud, and as it starts to ramp up and he works up the courage to lay a hand on that child, cousin Kevin enters. Uncle Ernie gets embarrassed, leaves, walks out the door, shuts the door. We're on our own, cousin.
Yeah.
Starts.
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it being an internal kind of struggle for him, and it's like you still shouldn't leave him with him, and that's why he's an alcoholic and he has all this other stuff going on.
But so that the molestation doesn't take place,
right?
But the intent to molest takes place,
and it's still you don't leave him with him. It's still bad to do that,
right?
And and it's
but then it can help. It can help make the ending work too.
More, I guess,
because.
With him,
Tommy doesn't necessarily know, but maybe he intuits that at one point his uncle had the intention of or molesting him or whatever. I don't want to mince words about sexual assault. Whatever it is horrible. But like he has this intention to do this horrible thing to this child.
Right.
Is interrupted by his son, quickly leaves, and now his son, who has probably been abused by his father a bunch, and it would explain why he behaves the way he does, comes in and it's like, now it's my turn with the victim.
Cycles of abuse.
But those things, exactly. But so I don't think you run away from the abuse storyline that's happening here. I think you just have to be very clear about it and make it make sense. Otherwise, you're just running away from it. But that's my pitch.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think that it would work. It's just, for a show that is kind of like a collection of, events and moments and these peaks and valleys and stuff that it's a rough thing to also have in there in a show like that that is kind of otherwise very fun and stuff like that. But I think you're right. I think that's the way to do it.
And I think in the new version, I keep pretending like this is actually happening, but for the sake of this conversation, in the new version, what we don't do is be afraid of stillness and quiet, which our original production did not have. I think you wait a beat before Fiddle About starts. You wait a beat before the post Cousin Kevin See Me Feel Me happens. You take time with them. You don't just rush through them at the clip that the song wants to move. You let emotional weight land.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it would have been interesting. They were. Did you guys know they were? It was supposed to go back. It was supposed to be back on Broadway. They were doing a revival. That was supposed
Before
to be
COVID?
this year. Yeah, they did a run at the Kennedy Center in 2019, at the end of 2019, in the spring of 2019, and it was supposed to be moving to Broadway now, and it just everything got shut down. But yeah, it had Christian Borle and Mandy Gonzalez, which is Christian. I think most people know who Christian Borle is now because it's on TV. Mandy Gonzalez is maybe if you're a little bit more of a dork.
Wait, who is Christian Borle going to play? The Captain Walker?
Captain Walker. Yep.
Who was Tommy?
It was this guy named Casey Cott, who's in Riverdale. He's one of the leads in Riverdale.
Okay.
He's the male lead.
Well, they always have their musical episodes. I know, I don't either, but they have.
I know that's what he's for.
Episodes.
Yeah, I just know that's what he's from. I saw him in a episode of Law and Order SVU where he was part of a gay conversion camp.
Well, there you go.
Did it take? I'd love to get that a shot.
No, sure did not. It was bad. I'll tell you.
Okay.
Fine.
This is
Howard,
definitely.
you hear me? I hate being converted by Christians.
Okay. This is definitely going to be the longest episode, but there was a game I wanted to play, but I'm going to just do a few of these.
So long.
I'm just going to go through some of the tracks, and I want us to decide best version of the song. Was it the original album, the movie, or the original Broadway cast recording? Okay?
Okay.
So I'm just going to do, like, the big numbers. Like, Overture, I think...
Oh, go through. Go through. We go
okay.
through and we...
Overture, I say album.
Musical.
Oh, I think album.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a Boy, and...
1989 concert. That's where we got that. That's where we got that little riff that Kim
It's a boy,
created.
Mrs. Walker. It's a boy.
It's the portmanteau on the notes. It's
You're right. 1989 is.
I say musical
concert.
for It's a Boy. 1921.
Musical.
Musical. Amazing Journey. I'm gonna go.
I think musical only because I think, again, talking about voices like a jet engine, Michael Cerveris, for as many, he was maybe the best like actor for the.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear his voice that high because he's such like a. Because now he's such a baritone. I think of him.
He's such a baritone, yeah, and he has these very, very, especially in Amazing Journey, very, very clear, beautiful, piercing, long.
That is a difficult part to.
It's very hard.
All the male parts in that show.
I'm skipping through. Hawker is definitely musical. Christmas is definitely musical. Although Christmas is really good on the album. It's got this like
Christmas is very good on that.
like that is a really trippy effect on the album.
It's good on the album. I do think I love it. It's one of my favorite ones to learn. When we were doing the show, Christmas was one of my favorite songs.
That was like the first number with like everybody out. It's like the big ensemble, and that's when you first get the whole like everybody's voice together.
How can he be saved? That when those come in, it needs to tear. It needs to just peel the paint. It's beautiful.
Okay, Cousin Kevin. I think musical maybe.
I would say the Billy Idol concert.
Oh, Billy Idol in the concert's great.
And I would say the album is good on that too. The quiet lilt. It's not as dramatic or expressive as the musical, but it's cool.
Okay, now here's where I'm picking the movie. Acid Queen. That's where I pick movie.
You picked the movie on that?
For the Acid Queen, for Tina Turner. For Tina Turner, yes.
Only because it's Tina, but if you really watch that, Bobby, she's not that good. That's not top Tina. Like, that's not top Tina.
It's calibrated for what the movie's doing. I think Tina.
Yeah, 100. It is. But again, the movie is 98% cocaine and 2% green kids.
To me, it's the part is Tina Turner. Like it's like written like and even in like the Broadway cast, like they have her do like Tina stuff. Like it's coded to be Tina Turner. So that's why I love the film.
It is coded to be Tina Turner, but I do feel like that's that character's one song. Like there's no other time that character comes in. And so I think in that I like the musical better because you really get some really fantastic vocals. And not that Tina's not fantastic, but that's also when Tina was like at like peak, cocaine madness. I think you really get a lot of really good vocals and a lot of good options for a lot of other great singers in that song. So I would say stage version for that.
Fiddle About. Who cares? I think the movie one is so like out there and like disturbing that it's actually right.
It's wild.
This one, I think, really this is the one that I think is the best like across all three versions, and that's Pinball Wizard. I think hits every single way. It's one of the biggest songs ever, so it's hard to not say album for Pinball Wizard.
I think you're right. I agree with you on that. It's just such a great song that
I'm going to say album for that.
It hit musical.
But Elton John, that's one of the very best parts of the movie, and it's awesome to have be a whole ensemble act one finale as well.
I will say the vocal arrangement of Pinball was kind of getting like 4 swing performers. I think Cousin Kevin's in there because doesn't Cousin Kevin
Yeah.
basically create like a 4-part gang then that follows Tommy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having it broken up among non-leads, like to start that song or whatever, is not the strongest.
Yeah,
choice.
it kind of
But
takes.
I think what
I
it,
agree.
but the audience knows that song.
Right.
I don't care the fuck you
The
are.
audience is singing along.
You know Pinball Wizard.
The audience
Yeah,
is singing
absolutely.
every word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't care who's singing it. They're going with it, and that's why I
Yeah.
think the original recording is the strongest because
I agree.
the
It's
one that is
iconic.
the least different across the board.
Okay, go. This is an easy one. Go to the Mirror is definitely the musical. Definitely.
Musical.
Yeah.
Musical.
Go to the mirror.
Dun-dun-dun,
Boy, that's the
that
doctor.
specialist?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
specialist.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
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 Oh, you're right, Jack. Those harmonies, that nurse harmony or whatever that was. Goosebumps. I'm just thinking about it. And yes.
So good.
Tommy, can you hear me? Definitely not the movie because this is one of the worst.
No.
Actually, it's so weird. It's just Anne Margaret in the back
Just
of a car,
in
like
the back of
singing
a
it.
convertible.
It's so weird.
I think you know what. Give it to the musical.
Yeah, the musical with the 4-part harmony.
Barbershop-y shit with.
Yeah, the
I
barbershop
would say-
like doo-wop
I
harmony is
think
really fun.
musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smash the Mirror. I'm giving the movie. I'm giving to Anne Margaret. I'm giving Smash the Mirror.
Except for
to
that.
Anne
Except
Margaret.
for that, she didn't acknowledge the vocal line of the word rise to literally rise. It's
Yeah.
one thing she could do.
I
I would agree with you.
I mean-
I'm giving it musical because I think that's probably the scene where I think it's where like because Marsha Mitzman, right, who's Mrs. Walker in the original, she was nominated for a Tony, and I think that's where she really got to shine. She did a great job throughout.
That's where she came to work.
I mean, she carried that through line of Mrs. Walker, which is not an easy task. And that was where, yes, she came to work, and she really, I think she did a great job. So I say musical. On
I hear what you're all saying, but I just Anne Margaret also did this
get it.
dance.
I know.
I'm
I'm not mad about Anne Margaret.
And
She gets the beans from these.
yeah, she wins the beans for that, and she definitely was the best version of her Champagne song because it's the only one. Smash the Mirror, Sensation. You know,
Second sensation, musical.
Yeah, musical.
Those backing vocals don't feel cheap. Sensational.
when they all do that, yeah. But
No, I don't think the album does.
no, the album doesn't. No, that's all in the OVC. It's usually just a completely solo song. I think you're right. It's really good as everybody.
It's wonderfly arranged.
Sally
Yeah.
Simpson is fun in the
movie.
movie. It's a good version in the movie. You say the movie for that one?
I do.
All in all, because they make it a longer song and they use it
Yeah.
to do a lot of like recitative, like a lot of narration.
And there's a lot
I
of really
will-
fun visual jokes in that. The whole story, like of her
There
background,
are.
like they do like lots of quick character information through like.
Yeah, and
fun
then they
visuals.
fast forward to like now Sally is married and has
Getting
a baby by
married?
some other.
But it's like
monster.
another little boy who's dressed as Frankenstein's
Yes.
monster. It's amazing.
It's
It doesn't
so
make
weird.
any sense.
I will say that I will say the movie with the caveat that I do miss. I think it's only in the musical version, but a flash of fire, the whole place
Whole
stops.
place stops,
Click,
yeah.
click,
And-
click.
and-
Tommy is it's
Yeah.
such
That's
a good
great.
moment.
And
Really
that,
good dynamics.
that is made truly good by Sherry Renee Scott and Alex. That was very, in that regard, it's very generous casting of you. Your part, put me in that role. Because
Well,
like Sherry Renee Scott has like such a massive voice, and you have to for even just that one little bit of song. It's a big
Jack, you killed
line
it.
for a small character.
You killed it. I know it's such a small part, but all the day one homies have to be taken care of, and
Truly,
that
it
is
was
such a fun part of our production.
It was just the
It was by
best
the
group.
I loved it.
the fucking crowd surfing. It was
was awesome.
yeah.
Okay, last few.
move on.
I'm free.
Album.
Album.
Yeah, I guess probably the album version. Tommy's Holiday Camp. Who cares? I think.
Who cares?
Who cares?
None of it's good.
Movie.
It's good.
Yeah, the movie is pretty funny, actually. That's a funny part of the movie. We're not going to take it. I think it is a good with everybody singing it in the stage show.
Vocally, I like it in the stage show.
Yeah.
I don't like it in the movie because I think that that's where the movie really. I mean, hard thing
Also,
for me to say. That's where it takes a weird turn because that movie has taken so many weird turns.
That's several minutes
That's
after the
really,
baked beans. Yeah.
It really takes a weird turn.
So in the overture, I will say this, and I think I'm right about it. There is that iconic riff, that bum, 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 bum.
Yes.
And that is only drawn from the "We're Not Gonna Take It" in the stage.
Yes.
Because there's not like "We're not gonna take it," the word spoken before it's sung. I think it only does that.
No,
in
it
stage.
is. No, it does. They do speak it. They do speak it in the original album, I believe.
In the album too.
They do say, "We're not gonna take it." I do think they do.
But they totally ignored that iconic, which I think is like canon in the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say Broadway.
All right. Well, that's all the songs. This is going to.
Well, no, that goes into that's
finale
really
B, or the equivalent of.
But
listening to you.
What I read was the tracks from the album. So there's other stuff that's been added and stuff because that's the stuff that's been in every one.
Right. Well, and We're Not Gonna Take It. When you listen to the record, that's all one piece.
Right. Well, we could say listening to you as its own thing.
Into the final praise of see me, feel me, touch me into listening to you. It's all the same song. On the record.
And by far the musical has it.
Yeah.
We ripped your mom's youth apart, so it's been a success. We are setting the record for longest episode by a lot, and it's going to stay, I think, for a while. And
just
I'm proud
11
of us.
hours short of your marathon.
Well, I mean, I'm not counting that. Jack, thank you so much for being here. So glad to have you on a full ep, and now you have the open door as well that Alex enjoys.
Maybe one day, Jack, you'll be lucky enough to get stuck in the corner.
Yeah, I would love to be stuck in the corner. I think we should do a You're in Town.
I have done a Urinetown ep with my friend Ian, but I'm always down to talk about Urinetown again. But yeah, thanks Crinkly Fig, thanks Lilac for watching everybody. I think in conclusion, this musical, movie, and album are good actually. Fair
I agree.
Musical theater is as well. Everybody believes that, especially Alex. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Oh, okay. So next week, we're staying in the 70s psychedelic, weird, messianic movie musicals. And you can probably guess where I'm going with this. The Godspell movie. No, I'm just kidding. It's the Jesus Christ Superstar movie. Yes.
What's the buzz? Tell me what's happening.
Exactly, with my friend Sean Rose, very, very funny comedian from the comic. I can't think of his credits right now. My brain is fried from 3 hours of talking. But Sean is amazing. And then the week after that, we're going to be going international to France for the Umbrellas de Cherbourg.
Bonjour.
A beautiful, wonderful film, and that's going to be with Claire Downs. So that's going to be great fun coming up, and exciting stuff on the horizon beyond that. But thanks everybody for being here again. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Alex. I love you both so much.
Love you.
And yeah, see you next week. And I love you. Goodbye.